Welcome everybody to the Studio City Neighborhood Council regular scheduled board meeting. It is November 16th, 7:06 p.m. We're calling this meeting to order. If we can please call roll.
Kim Clements. She's absent, I understand. Dean Cutler.
Here.
Fiona Duffy.
Here.
Randall Freed.
Here.
Ira Gold.
Here.
Jeff Harwick's here. Julie Houlihan.
Here.
Scott Mandel.
Present.
Chip Meehan.
Here.
Brandon Marino.
Here.
Richard Niederberg.
Here.
Karen Sarah.
Here.
Adele Slaughter.
Here.
Alexa Steinberg.
Here.
Adam Sumner is apparently not present, and Abigail Velasco is absent. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. On to item 2, President's comments and announcements. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Announcement only. The president is responsible for creating an ad hoc election committee for the SCNC election. Any members of the public who are interested, please contact me at smandel@studiocitync.org with a statement of interest. Per our operating procedures, Section 1, Administration of Election A. The president shall create an ad hoc election committee to facilitate elections no less than 4 months prior to the election. Everyone on the election committee shall be a stakeholder. Announcement B. The SCNC will not be having our regular board or committee members meetings in December. However, this is subject to change in the event there's pressing business. Please check our website to see the calendar, subscribe to our mailing list for updates and announcements, as well as the city ENS system for board and committee agendas. Another announcement about the proposed wildlife district ordinance that is tomorrow, November 17th at 8:30 in the morning. To see how to attend, the agenda is on our calendar, it links to it. So just go to the SCNC website, go to our calendar, look at tomorrow, and you will see the agenda if you're interested in the proposed wildlife ordinance. One more announcement, which I think Brandon and or Karen may get more into later. We have Luminaria, a big event coming up on December 3rd, 4th.
Well, volunteering on the third. Event is on the 4th. Yeah.
And there's a task list for the board members. So please get your 10 hours of required service and please volunteer and help us out. We really need everyone to participate unless you have a really good excuse. On to item 3, Secretary report.
Hello, I am filling in for Abby. I haven't gotten a pass down from Abby, so there's not much I can say in terms of things to report. Adele, have you completed your budgetary stuff to be able to vote on budgetary items?
Not yet.
Okay. And I haven't seen the October minutes unless something passed by me in my email. So that's all I have for the Secretary's report. We could probably address that at the next meeting. Thanks.
Thanks. They're linked to on the agenda. If anyone has that agenda up, Adele. If everyone else has reviewed them, if there's approval without objection, we can just approve those minutes.
I so move.
Thank you.
You want to see him or no?
No,
Okay,
they're there.
I second it.
there they are.
Absent any objection, we'll just continue on.
The minutes are thereby approved. And I guess I'm up next. So
Go ahead.
in terms of the corresponding secretary's duties, all CISs from the last board meeting have been submitted to elected officials and uploaded to the council file. And our sole request for action to Nithya Raman, that's also been sent to her office. Thanks.
By the way, just to note, Tiffany from CD2 and George from CD4 are present.
Great. We'll promote them as soon as we get to that item. Thank you. Item 5, Treasurer report. Kim Clements. Kim is not here tonight. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the monthly expenditure report for October 2022. Adele, can you open that and share the screen?
Yep. Hold
And we'll
on.
need a second.
Second,
Second.
Thank you. Once it's shared,
Sorry, I need to go back.
close that, go to the,
Okay, hold on. Stop sharing. Sorry.
Number 3. Or sorry, number 5.
5.
Adele, may I just offer just a quick suggestion, just from experience? If you, I recommend opening it in under like a new window, so it's not over your email account, just in case.
Weird. shit coming up. Is this in my email account? Oh. Okay, anyway,
The
here it
previous
is.
screen was, but this one looks fine.
so that is the monthly expenditure report, which you all have seen. We can go to public comment on this item. So if you can stop sharing, and then we will see if the public has any comments on the monthly expenditure report before we vote.
I don't see any hands
Not
raised.
seeing any hands. Public comment on that is closed. Back to the board. Does anyone have any comments, questions, or can we just go right to a vote on the monthly expenditure report? Let's vote.
Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
Randall Freed,
Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Harwick, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Karen Sarah,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter,
I can't vote right now because I didn't finish the training.
of course. Adam Summer is absent. Alexa Steinberg,
Yes.
Peggy Velasco is absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 6, Brendan Marino.
I'll try to make this as quickly as possible. I have a few things to talk about. First, Luminaria, what President Mandel mentioned, will be December 4th at Campo de Cahuenga. And related to that will be at the Farmers Market, not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday on the 27th, to pass out parking passes and a lot of other things. I'd like to get some election schedules printed out just to pass out to the patrons of the farmers markets. They could see when the election deadlines are, just to get that going. So we'll be there, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., I believe it is, on the 27th. That'll be not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. Couple of things about the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Just before Halloween, they submitted a report regarding neighborhood council elections. It was actually, it's council file CF21-0407. It was their city council instructed them last April to put together this report. Lorenzo's here, he could probably talk about it a little more. And basically it was regarding NC election rules, differing council bylaws, how they affect election issues, and a possible standardization set of election rules for all neighborhood councils. I'm not going to comment on it because we have yet to file a CIS on that. There is no board action, so I'm not going to make any comments or opinions on it. There have been 15 neighborhood councils that have weighed in since 2021. We have yet to, so it'll probably go through Government Affairs Committee, Barry Johnson's committee, before it goes to the board. One more thing. The Board of Neighborhood Commissioners are going to be talking about the proposed code of conduct. I believe it was in April or May. We actually had an ad hoc committee with Mr. Niederberg, Mr. Hartwick, and Miss my device is not. So It'll be Miss Steinberg. I can't use her first name because my device will go off. And we had two motions, one for the digital communications policy, one for the code of conduct. They were unanimously passed, but now they're going to have an ad hoc committee through the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. It'll be, what's his name? Leonard Schaefer and Debbie Webby, replacing Ms. Vo Ramirez, who resigned, who left the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. And they're going to do the same thing they did with the last digital communications policy setup, where they have ad hoc committees and they go to bonk, they get input from neighborhood councils and stakeholders. There is a difference, though, this time that I think is very interesting. They're still counting ballots. I think they have like 500,000 to go. We may not know until the first week of December who wins all the different elections, but if the trend continues, Heidi Felstein Soto might be our next city attorney. We don't know yet. They're still counting ballots. But what's interesting is she's one of us, or at least used to be. She was a neighborhood council board member for Pico NC. She was a co-chair of the land use committee, and then the vice president before she stepped away to run for city attorney. So it's going to be very interesting to see one of us, if the numbers continue the way they are. I'm not saying it's happened yet, but it'll be very interesting to see a city attorney who used to be a neighborhood council board member, their perspective on the code of conduct, digital communications policy, the things the LA city does well with the NC system and the things the city does not do well with the NC system. It's going to be an interesting 2023 to say the least. Final note, if we don't have a December meeting, I wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday a month until the end of the year. And really, just words of wisdom, I suppose. The only thing in life that matters are the people in your life who matter most. Spend time with them, take stock in them, tell them how much you care about them, and how much, hopefully, they say in return how much they care about you. And if we don't meet in December, have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in January. I yield the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Brandon. We're moving on to item 7, announcement by LA DOT team on current efforts to conduct a community survey to identify mobility investment priorities to better align the expenditure Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan expenditure fees with citywide policies and plans and community needs. So there's a link to the survey. I took the survey. Perhaps some of you already did as well. And LADOT is going to explain what this is all about. And I'm trying to promote Kevin to a panelist. Did he already make it? JJ, where did you go? DOT.
He's there, Scott.
Hi.
Great. Take it away, Kevin.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you. My name is Kevin Ocavio. I'm a transportation planner with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. So I'm going to share my screen, and I got a quick presentation for y'all to check out, and then we'll go from there. Let me see. Here we go. Does this all work for you? Can you see this? Okay, I'm seeing some head nods, so I'll take that as a yes. So I'm here to talk about some engagement that we have upcoming for the Ventura Cahuenga specific plan area. The Ventura Cahuenga specific plan is a 17-mile corridor that runs the length of Ventura all the way from Hidden Hills down to Universal City.
Point of information, still loading. We haven't seen anything yet. The screen still says loading. Is everyone getting that as well?
Yes.
Let me try again.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for letting me know. Okay. Can you
Got
see?
that.
Okay, got that. How about someone let me know when you can see this? Oh, you know what? There we go. Sorry.
Still done.
And clicking resume share doesn't seem to be working on my end. Sorry about that. Let me try something else.
First tile is okay.
There you go.
Okay, cool. That's why they call it the wonders of technology. All right, back to it. Ventura Boulevard. Well, there we go. For those of you who are unaware, Ventura Boulevard, the majority of it from Hidden Hills all the way to Universal City is under the control or the zoning regulations of a specific plan. For those who are unfamiliar with what a specific plan is it's basically a set of extra load of zoning that helps to regulate, preserve, or promote a specific aesthetic or look inside a geographic area. So for us, we have the entire Ventura Boulevard corridor from Hidden Hills to Universal City. And additionally, what the specific plan does is it regulates building height, the look of it, density, things like that. Another thing that it does is you can collect fees within a specific plan. And the idea of collecting those fees is to go towards paying for public improvements. In our case, when the specific plan was created, a fee was installed on new development, and the fee would be put into a special pot in order to eventually purchase some land to build some parking structures. The specific plan was implemented, I want to say in the earlier mid-90s. And here we are 30 years later. Kind of scary to say that. Things on the ground have changed, development has changed, transportation technologies have changed, the way we get around has changed. So City Council directed the Department of City Planning and LADOT to update the specific plan to account for these new things. So City Planning began to update the specific plan and called on support of my department, LADOT, to help inform what we could do in terms of transportation infrastructure and advanced transportation policies. So we're here to better align the fund with citywide plans and policies. We want to invest more holistically to support community needs and realize the potential of the specific plan to improve the transportation experience and placekeeping along the corridor. City Planning conducted a little bit of outreach earlier this year, January to March. It was mostly done virtually. We only got 250 responses. And we know that's really not a lot compared to the huge area and number of stakeholders that are come and visit the corridor on a daily basis. So we have phase 2, which is right now through the end of December. There's some key differences as we're going to be implementing LADOT's community first engagement framework here. I'll tell you more about that in a second. We have a street team. So we're going to have folks deployed out in the public at busy locations, shopping centers, bus stops, schools, to talk to people where they're at and meet them where they are. And we're also doing some direct outreach to key stakeholder groups like the neighborhood council, some business improvement associations, full list to come later on in the presentation. So the community first engagement framework is a new approach LADOT is taking to do community engagement. We want it to be informative and equitable. We want to focus on those who are most impacted by the planning project. And we want to give community members the opportunity to co-create and conceptualize projects with the city. LADOT has a bunch of engineers and planners and technical staff. We have access to a lot of data. And so what we see on paper, we sort of see some transportation deficiencies. But we want to talk to you guys and know what's really happening on the ground. You guys are the daily stakeholders. You live there for many years. You know what's going on. And so there are likely some things that you're seeing or that you see as problems that we don't see on our end. And so we want to bridge that gap. The goals of the engagement plan here are really to center the lived experience of those who live on the corridor. Again, we want to have folks help conceptualize infrastructure projects. And then we want to understand the perspective of some hard to reach populations. So these are people who can't attend a regular meeting. There's a digital divide, don't have access to internet. So specifically, we really want to talk to transit riders, our seniors, our youth, and non-English speakers. So we're making a concerted effort to include those populations in this round of outreach. At the end of the day, we want to have some community defined needs. And we also want to know where you stand on certain policy goals, access for all, safer streets for all, reduced vehicle miles traveled, improved air quality, and climate resilience and public health. Which one of these really resonate with you? Which one of these do you want to see advanced through the implementation of infrastructure projects? At the end of it, we hope to develop a mobility and right-of-way investment list that delivers on the community goals and policy goals that you all have told us through the survey. So this is what our timeline's been like. We spent most of the summer kind of coming up with the plan, finalizing it, get some resources in place. This last month, we were really kicked into high gear, doing the coordination production, producing visual collateral, training our street team members, coordinating survey locations, and then also reaching out to key organizations. And then right now we're in the month of November. So right now is all data gathering. We're out there in the streets. I think to date, we've completed 5 engagement events in the public right of way and in the public. This is the 4th briefing that I've done to a key stakeholder organization, some other groups, just so you know. I've talked to VICA. I've talked to the Studio City Chamber of Commerce, the Studio City Neighborhood Council. So we're going down the list and doing that. We'll continue to do that throughout the month of December, and then that's when we'll see where we're at in terms of our participation. Maybe we'll cut it off there, or we might extend it into the new year. So if you're out in Ventura shopping for the holidays, and you're in one of the areas where we're doing, this is kind of what you'll see when you're in the street. You know, we'll have LADOT branded table, we'll have some swag, we'll have some fact sheets, and an activity for you guys to participate in. Again, we're going to be at key locations. So this is an example of one we did for a similar effort in downtown LA. We were at Spring Street Park. We were at a grocery store. We're at Weller Court, which is a popular shopping destination. So if there are any ideas that you guys have or suggestions on places you think that we should be at, where you know that you and your neighbors are attending and going to, please let us know. We'd love to go and check that out if we can. You know, it's a 17-mile corridor. We're able to dedicate 4 part-time staff to do this 4 days a week. And so what we did was we decided to focus the street team efforts in these key areas. And so what you see in the pink are areas, we did a little bit of analysis of where is it busiest for bus riders, for people walking, for people biking, and for people driving. And then we also looked at some health equity key indexes, such as the Cal Enviroscreen and the Los Angeles Health Equity Index. Those are 2 indexes that help us understand the sort of health risk factors of the public in that area. So things like instances of asthma, diabetes, exposure to particulates. We added all those together and we came up with these hotspots. So our street team members are going to be focused in these areas. You can see from west to east, we have Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Tarzana, Encino, and then the Woodland Hills and Warner Center area. That doesn't mean that we're not doing outreach in the other areas. We are doing outreach in those other areas. And we're really relying on our key stakeholder groups like this organization and others to share the survey, the online survey, with their membership. So your help with that effort would be greatly appreciated. So this is just a list. It's not complete. We're adding to it every day, but this is just to give you an idea of the breadth of outreach that we're doing. We have the neighborhood councils, some homeowners associations, the business groups and improvement associations. If there are other organizations that you guys are missing from here, again, we're open, you know, we're really at the beginning of our outreach process. So send those my way and we'd be happy to reach out, especially if you have a phone number or email for somebody over there, we'd be happy to talk to them. So here's my contact information. This effort is being led by myself and my colleague, Natalie Gutierrez. The survey is now live. So if you're at home, go ahead and scan this QR code. You can get that on your phone, come back to it later, or maybe while you wait for your item to come up. You can also visit tinyurl.com/VenturaSP to participate in the survey. So one more thing that I wanted to share with y'all is our postcard, and I'll send this over. I think I might have sent this over, but I'll send this, wanted to share with you. Anyway, we're sending this to all our neighborhood councils and other folks, has the same information but just an invitation to participate. And I'll stop there and open it up for questions.
Thank you for that, Kevin. We have a few hands raised from members of the public, so if you can stick around for a second. Let's do 1 minute of public comment for this topic. If you can unshare your screen, and then we'll go to Terry Austin. You have 1 minute. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Kevin. That was excellent. I was going to suggest that since you have a postcard with QR code on it, and since the outreach committee is has a date at the end of this month at our farmers market, which is a very well attended event, I would like to suggest, and I don't know if it's right for me to suggest or ask Brendan or ask Scott, if we could perhaps ask you for, we'll take a little of your swag too, Kevin, but those postcards, because I really think this is super important. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Kevin, just get them to us. We'll contact you offline.
Perfect.
We'll just, thank you very much for that, Terry. 018 caller, go ahead.
Hi, it's Barry. The map of the interest that you showed shows the business districts of Sherman Oaks and Encino. It leaves out the business district of Studio City. And in fact, what you're calling Studio City on the far east end is really some of Cahuenga Pass and Toluca Lake. And it's all around the metro station, which is nice, but our business district, because Ventura Boulevard is at its narrowest in Studio City, particularly in our business district, needs to be one of those areas of interest for your office. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Kevin, if you have any response to that, we'll see. After that, we'll go to the board if they have any questions.
Yeah.
Can I just say something? I saw Studio City bid listed there on his.
No.
We are in touch with them. It's not on the list, but we are in touch with the Studio City bid. We're also in touch with the Cahuenga Pass Homeowners Association. So I know it's not on the map, but we are reaching out to those folks. But thank you for elevating that for me.
Not seeing any more hands from the public. We'll now go to any members of the board have anything for Kevin and what we just heard. Del, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for that presentation. It was great. I do think the Studio City Residents Association also would be someone to get in touch with. They're pretty powerful. I can send you Alan and Beth Diamond's info. And also, I want to reiterate what Terry said, because along between, let's see, Whitsett and Laurel, there is a really unusual, I think unusual parking structure that is very underutilized. And yet, if you go there and park, it's like paying for, street parking. And they have free plug-in for your electric car, which I have. And, it's a really great underutilized parking structure that I think could be all up and down the corridor. It is, you can park there and then just go and shop all up and down the boulevard. It's fantastic. And I think that that would be something you would want to look at, that particular parking structure you want to look at and do more of that. So just FYI, thanks.
And Chip, you have something to say?
In addition to the farmer's market, which I think is a good idea, I think we need a larger format than a postcard, perhaps an easel with the QR code so people could hit that. I don't know how the board feels about having that same easel and QR code at Luminaria.
Yeah, already gonna do it.
Okay.
The
And
easel at least.
an easel, right. And also, would it be something that the local merchants through the bid would want to actually have sort of taped to their front window so people could walk by and hit the QR code? That's what I got.
Great idea, because they're affected by it. Yeah.
Kevin, anything in closing?
No, thank you all. These are super great suggestions. I like the idea of having printouts for the QR code to be posted in local businesses. If we end up, the farmers market works for us, I'll have our street team show up, so they'll bring everything that you guys need, if that's okay. We'll have a table, we'll have an easel, we'll have like a little interactive board and activity for people to participate in, so we can replicate what we're doing on the street at the farmers market. That's exactly the type of things that we're looking for.
And bring your swag.
Got lots of swag for days.
All right,
But if
thank you,
you-
Kevin. We'll contact you offline for that. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. Good night.
And now, bear with me, folks. I got a new puppy and I was up all night. I did not sleep. So if I sound like I'm dragging, I'm dragging. We're going to move on to item 9, item 8, announcements by government representatives. So I see we have George and Tiffany. Tiffany, I'm trying to promote you to a panelist.
Yeah, I'm here, Scott. So
There's
no
George. Okay, well, George, you started speaking first, so go ahead.
worries. Sure, let me turn on my camera. All right. So great to spend this evening with you all. Amazing faces. So just to give a couple of updates. So I did want to promote that there will be a North Hollywood Interfaith Food Pantry Thanksgiving service tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. located at the UNAT. This is such a tongue twister. The Universalist Church of Studio City. So if you want to stop by, feel free. Next, we also completed a Studio City business walk, and we were joined by the Studio City Bid and the Studio City Chamber of Commerce, where we connected multiple businesses with our office and provided them services, and even some of them with the Studio City Bid. They got in touch with Steven, the security person that roams within the bid. So that was a great connection, and I think a great use of our time and the council members' time. We visited approximately 20 businesses. So, you know, we were able to make that connection very seamlessly. We're also in the process of setting up a booth, hopefully fingers crossed this Sunday at the Studio City Farmers Market, to let them know about information regarding organics recycling, and our climate action fellows will be joining us, and they can give information regarding food recovery projects in the district. I am not an expert in this, so I wouldn't be able to fully answer any questions. I knew Terry, your hand would go up about it, but we can definitely talk offline, and I can connect with Alex, our community education coordinator, to answer any questions. But happy to answer questions right now if there's anything regarding that effort as well. One last thing, we're also working with the chamber to set up a shoe drive to give youth more shoes, and so we're collaborating with this effort with the chamber, and we're still ironing out the details, but once we find out more logistics, I can forward this over to you or whoever else is interested. I said that was the last one, but I lied. So our office was in receipt of, Jeff, your email regarding the action for the unsafe traffic conditions at Coldwater Canyon and the LA River. And so to speak about that, our office and Ben from Sportsman's Lodge have been incredibly active and vocal regarding some of the things that, would mitigate some of the traffic concerns. One of them is that we did request LADOT for no stopping at any time signage posted within that place where, delivery drivers usually stop at. So hopefully we're getting in that works. Steve Rostam did, confirm that it's in the queue for us. So it's just a matter of how expeditiously they decide to work with us. Our office and Slow Smith have also been requesting for parking enforcement around this area. And I'm going to steal Ben's thunder and, just let you all know that he also has informed us that there are their own signs that they posted at that location, if any of you have stopped at the arrow on. And they have informed their property managers and security staff to address the drivers directly as well for any people or motorists that stop at that location. And in the future, we're trying to set up a meeting with all parties, DLT, the River folks, the Sportsman's Lodge, PD in our office sometime in the next week or two to further discuss all this at full length as well. So we're hoping to go down there in the site, and that's still in the books, but hopeful that we see some resolution, some good resolution. So that's it from our end. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for that, George. If you don't mind, we'll let Tiffany go next because sometimes the issues overlap the two council districts. And then the questions could be answered by either one of you or both. Tiffany, can you
Go ahead,
unmute and go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Like George mentioned, the Thanksgiving food service at the Interfaith Food Pantry, tomorrow, November 17th, we'll have 3 of our staff members there helping out with the service. We are also having a senior scam stopper this Saturday, November 19th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at NoHo Rec Center for anyone interested, or if you'd like to pass along that information to any seniors that you might be aware of that have this type of issue. This usually happens around the holidays where we find that, seniors are getting calls saying that maybe their social security is being used and then they provide their social security. So this type of issue comes around this time of year, so it's best to be aware. I know it's come up a few times during the meeting, but December 4th, the Luminaria event, I am working on getting the insurance and things like that with Barry and the city clerk's office and Rec and Parks and a couple of other board members. I know you're probably all on that very lengthy email thread we've been going back and forth on, but I did send an email today kind of containing exactly what needs to be done. I had several meetings just today about this event, and I wanted to make sure that every board member who was involved in this was on the same page so we can make sure that this event gets through and the performers are booked and everything flows through smoothly. So I'm sure Barry's probably filtering through all those emails we went through today. But I did send one final lengthy email to everybody, including Rec and Parks and the city clerk's office, stating exactly what's needed to finalize everything for the event. And we should be good to go once all that's done. We're also having our annual holiday food and toy drive on Thursday, December 8th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's going to be at the First Christian Church where we have it every year. It's basically where we're collecting food and toy donations for children and families in need across the San Fernando Valley. Our Winter Wonderland event is on December 17th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I'm sure most of you know Tahunga Village is having their holiday party on December 3rd. We're helping close off the street on that day towards the evening time. We're getting some assistance from our LAPD senior lead officers to help with that. So it should be a good turnout over there as well. And I think that's all for me.
Thank you, Tiffany. Let's go to the public and see if anyone has any questions or comments. Let's do 1 minute for this because I know everyone is anxiously awaiting for agenda item 13. We'll get to that as soon as possible. Tess, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations on your puppy. I have a comment for, is it George or Jorge on CD4?
Yeah, George's.
Hi, George. My name is Tess Taylor. I'm speaking in my capacity as president of the Residents Association of West Toluca Lake, but I'm also an elected board member in our neighborhood council here. And we were previously with CD4 under Nithya Raman. And I just wanted to let you know to pass on to her that I brought forward to our board and we voted unanimously yesterday to pass a motion supporting her council file 220560, in which she introduced a motion supporting modifications to adopt LA Ethics Commission reforms, which I think are more important now than ever. And please give my regards to Mehmet Berker. Thank you.
Thanks, Tess. Yeah, I'll see them both tomorrow, so I'll pass on your comments.
Thank you, Tess. Not seeing any more hands. Public comment is closed. Anyone from the board have anything for Tiffany or George? I'm not seeing anything. Thank you both, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, did we miss a hand?
I'm not sure if Terry had a hand raised. I know she had it for a while.
Eric Previn, go ahead, please.
Greetings. It's Eric Previn. I'm a longtime resident of Studio City, and I just wanted to say hello to the CD4 office. It's nice to, I know there was a number of, interesting projects and programs shifted from CD2 to CD4. And one that caught my attention in an SCRA e-blast had to do with the Studio City Rec Center, which, the recent parks item before the city failed, but Prop K was a success in 1996 and, expand, but what arose over a long period of shifty meetings was a oversized high school regulation gymnasium in the open space. And I was a little surprised to hear that Nithya Raman's office is moving forward, in this direction. And I was hoping to get some clarification or, on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so we're first trying to find the funding source for this project. I know that it hasn't been visited at all by like the community members in some time. So once we identify funding source to fully bridge the funding gap, we can definitely come back to the community and let them know if there's any modifications they see fit or if there are any improvements or something that doesn't seem right. So when we say moving forward, it's speaking with our federal partners and identifying any appropriation money that they can send our way. But as of now, there's no shovel in the ground project that we can use to move forward. So we're still all waiting for the funding source, especially now since I've heard that there's quite an extensive amount from the bid due to inflation that it might cause some more wrinkle in our plans. But Eric, I would be happy to talk to you offline and include our senior deputy for public space and infrastructure to understand where you also come from. So feel free to contact me at George. It's first name dot last name at lacity.org. So we can chat more offline.
And we have one more hand from Peter Cole. Go ahead, Peter.
Hi, question follow up on what Eric asked. My numbers might be wrong, but as I recall with the gym project, I think it started out somewhere around 3 million and mushroomed up to 17 million. How much money are you currently looking for, considering inflation and all that?
Yeah, I have to relook at the numbers again, but I think they estimate a 20% increase from BOE. And again, this is just an estimate, and this is based on BOE's kind of trends that they see across the city. So they say that it would usually go up 20%. We're unsure. We have to rebid it, but we want to ensure that we first receive the federal funding in order to go back to bid, because then it's just a back and forth and nothing really gets done. So that's kind of the estimates, but we're still a little bit ways from the funding source to fully fund it.
And I see a hand from Terry Austin. Go ahead, please.
Hey, thanks. Hey, George, just really quick, regarding the recycling thing, the recycling rules have changed recently, and there's different things like food scraps and stuff that are now acceptable, but I'm getting different comments from different DWP people. I've been inquiring about that. Could you make that a note of when people are, whatever they're going to present, that they include some really specific things about what you can and can't put in your blue bin now? Because it really has changed quite a bit in the last 6 months.
Perfect. About what you can and can't do regarding food scraps?
Well, not just food scraps, but also some other containers regarding the little triangle circles on the bottom, and what you can put in and what you can't put in terms of recyclables.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'll make that note.
But specifically, also the food scrap thing is new, but other stuff. Thank you.
Even.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I'll make sure to let them know.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Now public comment is closed. There are no more hands. Nobody from the board has their hand up. So thank you, George. And I think Tiffany's already gone. And we're going to move on. I see Lorenzo is here. Lorenzo, are we good? Do you have anything to say, or should we just move on?
Hey, Scott, sorry about that. No, I think you guys are good. I did email my updates to the board, but if anyone has any questions, just feel free to reach out by email or feel free to give me a call.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 9, Public comment on non-agenda items within the neighborhood council's jurisdiction. 1 minute, 30 seconds per speaker. If you have a comment about an item that is not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Tess, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tess Taylor here in my capacity as president of the West Toluca Lake Residents Association. We've had a major vandalism streetlight outage in the 4-block area that is West Toluca Lake, which is immediately adjacent to Studio City. Half of the lights in our neighborhood are out. I have talked directly with the Executive Director of Bureau of Street Lighting, Miguel Sangalang, to get a timeline for repairs. He estimates 2 months, but will give me a more specific a repair schedule within about a week. I wonder if the folks in Studio City have experienced similar vandalism. Apparently there's a rash of it throughout the valley particularly, and the Bureau of Street Lighting crew that came out to assess the damage informed me that vandalism is up 4 to 6 times. What's particularly disturbing is that much of the copper wire, which is stolen, and as we know, copper wire has gone up greatly in price and is therefore now valuable to thieves, is being taken to, in large part, city recycling centers, and therefore the city is accepting stolen property from the city. So residents are paying a premium for copper wire, then they're not getting the benefit of what they're paying for because they're not getting the use of the lighting, and it's being recycled at city cycling centers. So I'm researching this. I want to know if Studio City is having similar problems with its lighting. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tess. I will contact you offline about that. Anybody else from the public have a comment on a non-agenda item? Eric Previn, go ahead, please.
Thanks. It's Eric Previn. I'm a longtime resident of Studio City, and I wanted to just underscore what I brought up a minute ago about Studio City Rec Center, which I know is not on the agenda tonight. We're going to hear a little bit about the sportsman's residences at item 13. I'm interested in that. But, you know, open space is such a critical component to life in Studio City, the trees, the field, the feeling of being at a park. And the Prop K item, you know, was an example of kind of old style city corruption, where what was earmarked a certain way as just a modern gymnasium got contorted and twisted by various forces into a high school regulation sized basketball court that it stands, and people will understand why tall buildings in small neighborhoods are problematic when we get to the residences. But a tall building in an open space where there's very limited open space, as is in Studio City, is beyond egregious. And I want, you know, I was trying to be polite with Councilmember Rahman's office and her team because they may not know, but the people didn't really approve this. This was kind of negotiated in a back room. There are some people who know about it. A lot of the people who served on the little LVNOC, which means local volunteer something or other, are people who we know, the usual suspects. So I'm hoping that when this does, you know, is exposed to the light of day, the price tag and the lack of what the people really need or want at Beaman will prevail, and they won't raise $20 million to do something stupid in the open space. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Not seeing any more hands from the public. Public comment is now closed. We're going to go on to item 10, excuse me, cultural affairs. Abby's not here. We have a motion. The board of the, actually, you want to read it, Karen, or should I just take it?
You can do it. Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, approves the budget for Movies in the Park. Spring event on Saturday, April 8th, not to exceed $2,500. Summer event on Saturday, June 3rd, not to exceed $2,500. Adele, there's a PowerPoint on that we can just quickly go through the slides that Abby has to show her vision of these two events. If you have it, it should be in your SCNC email box.
From Scott. If you can't do it, I can bring it up, Adele.
Go ahead, you do it. I don't.
Okay, yeah,
Do
sure.
you have the final one, Karen?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
great.
I do.
I'm able to do it now if
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
that's
go
okay.
ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, if you've got it. Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Ira.
this is it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously Abby would do a really good job presenting the slides. If you just go to the, so these are the dates. The movie is to be determined. You can go to the next slide. And these are the initial projections for the usual. We've done movies in the park before. So it's the snacks and the swag and the banners and the park employees. So Abby has laid it all out for us so you can see.
And CD4 has purchased all the movie equipment.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
And
next
sound.
slide. This is an idea for some potential swag. These are the grocery totes and it's all been
It's a good
priced out.
idea. Yeah.
So someone really did their homework on this.
Abby.
Go to the next
And
slide, please.
Kim and Brandon.
So more colors and options. So we're going to probably get the best deal possible if this is the route we go. And I think, is there one more?
Okay.
So these are the items. Go to the food. That's the most important one. So as you can see, Council Member Rahman's office is going to be partnering with us for the hamburgers and hot dogs. This will be strategically done to lessen the amount of permits and such. So who's going to be cooking the food, who's going to be buying the food? We will not have to go through all that paperwork. This will all be smooth. And the park staff is really going to be helping out on that one as well. And I think that's the last slide. Oh, the COVID safety protocols and such.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So we all
We
know
need
the
to do
drill.
that. Yeah.
It's all outdoors, no vax cards. And I guess you could stop sharing.
Should I go? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Well, you go to the end and see the smile face. Here we go.
There we go.
Abby, thanks you all.
Good stuff.
So we'll go to public comment. If anyone has anything, we'll do 1 minute for this one. If anybody has any comments or questions about our movies in the park, if anyone was at Encanto, you know, that was a big success. It was well intended. The movie played well. It looked like everybody had a great time. And everyone put in a lot of effort to make that event go smooth. And we thank everybody who participated. Not seeing any hands raised. Anybody from the board have a comment or question? Eric, did you just get your hand in time?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric. We're
Do I
doing a
have
minute for this topic. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Do I have to unmute myself or?
No, we hear you.
Okay, cool. So I was at one of the recent Encanto. I thought it was a very nice event. I wanted to remind you that there was one other feature that caught my attention, which was the tacos. They had a very nice taco presentation, which I thought was thoughtful and nice. And there was one other feature that caught my attention, which was there was an exclusive real estate company sponsor, which was a little different from what I'm used to. I thought there was supposed to be sort of we don't do that, or if we do those kinds of things, we have an RFP so that all the angling real estate folks can have a chance to associate. But I don't know, this may be a new, maybe whoever was talking about Bonk could look into that. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, I have no opposition to taking private money as long as it's very clear that it was fair and, but we don't want to be giving any particular angler angle. Thank you.
Thank you for that. If we have any more information on that, we'll contact you offline. Not seeing any more hands from the public. Public comment is closed. Anybody from the board have anything to say about the spreadsheet and the budgeted amounts before we vote?
Looks great.
Let's vote.
All right, we're voting on motion 10A to approve the budget for movies in the park. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
Randall Freed,
Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Hartwick, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Karen Sarah,
Yes. See you all at Luminaria.
Adele Slaughter.
Yes.
Adam Summer is absent, I believe. Yeah. Alexa Steinberg,
Yes.
Abby is absent. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11, Budget Committee. The Board of the City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, approves the funding request from the SCBA for the Vineland Median Project E in the amount up to $5,000. And Andrew Epstein is here from SCBA to answer any questions. There's a link to the funding request, the presentation photos,
Have you promoted Andrew yet?
and yeah, we should promote Andrew and the project plans. Just so you know, we've all dealt with Andrew before. We've seen his work. We funded him before. This is another median on Vineland from Whipple to, I believe, the 101. This was presented to the Budget Committee at the last Budget Committee meeting, and it was fully vetted. The plans, the plants, they're all California natives. Everything was gone through in explicit detail. So if we can share the screen and just take some quick looks of the perhaps the project plans or the presentation photos, but that might be the best. It's linked to on the agenda. And then if Andrew wants to maybe make a statement after we look at those pictures, and then we can go to public comment. Ira, were you going to share that, or is Adele?
Good question. Give me a moment.
I've got it if you'd like me to throw it up. Here's the pictures.
Sure, whoever.
Are you seeing that?
That's the
park.
Oh, okay, wrong one.
Let me see if I can get that. Oh, there we go.
That's the same one again.
No, that's good.
No.
Oh, that was
Good.
it.
That was it. Whatever we just saw.
Okay. All right,
So-
so that's picture number one. That's the median, I guess.
Andrew, without getting into too much detail, does that pretty much sum it up right there?
Unfortunately, it does. That's the median on Vineland, just north of the freeway across from the fire station, with a newly installed welcome to, and no plant life. And that's the median we intend to beautify. And this is a median we did about a year or two ago across from the Garland Hotel. This is one of 4 medians on Vineland from Ventura North that we have adopted and plant and maintain.
So I think that
There's
pretty
the
much.
budget if we need to see that. I'm not sure.
Right. So our portion would be up to $5,000, and Andrew is getting additional financing from other sources. Maybe Andrew, you want to address that real quick, and then.
Right. That's what we spend our time do is a lot of our time looking for donations, and we get donations from the community and businesses in the area. And so we'll hopefully we're close to finalizing the budget on this, and hope to, when we get all our ducks in a row, plant probably first of the year.
And that's how it worked with the last project that the SCNC funded as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And just so you know, so we're not done with it once we plant it. We install irrigation, and we're responsible for maintaining it as well. We have a crew that maintains all, I believe we have 14 medians in Studio City that we do, from a small small little freeway medians to pocket parks. So this is one of several. And we've actually revised the plant list. Scott, you have a new page, a plant board that I sent you. I don't know if you could screen share that. But this median will be all California native. And Scott doesn't have it. It's all plants that are, like I said, native and drought tolerant. And there they are.
All California native, all drought tolerant. Looks
Correct.
like- Okay, I'll stop.
Great to see that. Yeah.
And actually, as we move forward, that will continue. We have other projects on Vineland that either need to be refreshed. Some of them got hit hard in the last heat wave, or just brought into the palette that we're doing, and they'll also be including natives.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll go to public comment now, and just want to remind everybody again, this went through the budget committee, so there is money for this. It was vetted and it passed the budget committee. Eric Previn, you have 1 minute. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, great work. I think there are neighborhood council funds from either CD2 or CD4 that match these kinds of things. So you're right. So you're getting $5 grand from Krikorian or Raman or both?
Just Krikorian. I don't believe.
Good.
I wish George was on this call, but at this point, that council district has not participated in the matching funds.
Well, I'm not sure it's in their district, but maybe. But another idea was just simply you could soak. There's all that money from Universal, and they're so busy doing a great job up on their property. It wouldn't hurt if they could assist with some of these.
They have.
Great.
They have donated, just so you know, just for transparency. Universal has donated. I don't know if Warner Brothers did, but also the Garland Hotel did as well. Because even though this median is not directly in front of their hotel, it's all a part of the corridor. It's all a part of the traffic that goes in their hotel. So, and they're doing a whole upgrade on their landscape. So so far it's been nice to see their cooperation.
Thank you. Barry, go ahead.
Hi, fortunately, this median is still in CD2, where Councilman Krikorian matches anything that a neighborhood council contributes. And unfortunately, CD4 does not have that same program. But luckily, this is north of the river in CD2. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Not seeing any more hands. Oh, wait. No, Barry, your hand is up. Public comment is now closed on this. Going to the board. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Are we ready? Ira, go ahead.
Andrew, perhaps, so I know that previously the youth committee, Studio City Neighborhood Council Youth Committee, was trying to get some kind of a little, very small area that's kind of a garden area. They put something together, but because of all the, everything that's involved in, as you know, probably better than most in getting anything done in terms of gardening or landscaping, with the irrigation and what's necessary long-term, it just wasn't feasible. So maybe I'd just like to plant a seed that maybe in a future median, we can incorporate a very small area where if our current youth committee chair is still interested, maybe we can incorporate a very small area, maybe add some additional funds your way and have something for them in there as well. Just planting the seed. It's moot for this particular one, but maybe in the future. Thank you.
Ira, if you'd like to reach out to me privately, sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Ira.
And Richard, go ahead.
Yeah. Is there a demarcation line where the North Hollywood support ends and where ours begins?
I didn't hear the question.
Is there a demarcation sign where the Studio City sponsored medians end and the North Hollywood medians begin?
The median just north of this, between this median and Moore Park, is actually considered, I believe it's Toluca Lake West or Toluca Lake. And they have plans to beautify that median as well. I spoke to them about a year ago, but I haven't heard any updates.
So eventually you think you'll probably get the gig or what?
I'm sorry?
Do you think you'll eventually be taking care of other mediums also? The ones you already have? I know it's one with their sign. Our sign, is there a blend there? What's going on?
No, we have no more medians on Vineland. We have medians to refresh on Vineland, but there's no raw median to do other than that's in our district. The other district is Toluca Lake and then North Hollywood. And I know the council office, Krikorian's office, was talking about a new master plan for all the medians going through North Hollywood. I don't know if you've seen, someone planted a large collection of pine trees that nobody knows who planted them. But anyway, there is some discussion about that long corridor from there to like Magnolia, but that's not in our district. So I don't know who's doing what there. It would be nice to have a cohesive design, but I don't know if that will happen.
Thank you.
Any other board comments before we vote? Not seeing anyone's hands. Let's vote on this item, please.
All right, we are voting on item number 11, the funding request for the Vineland Median Project. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Randall Freed. Randy, are you out there?
I am. Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Harwick, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Karen Sarah.
Yes.
Adele, I think you can't vote on budgetary items.
Correct.
So ineligible. Adam Summer is absent. Alexa Steinberg.
Yes.
Abigail Velasco is absent. Fiona Duffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. On to item 12. Brandon, go ahead, please.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, where are we on this? Okay, the motion is the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the amount of up to $400 for flyer printing and or stand displays to advertise SCNC at public events. This was passed through outreach. This is basically a refreshing of stuff we already have. I can show you basically what this is. Here's 3 of them right here. This is the stuff we passed out at Farmers Market, at Movies in the Park, so on and so forth. We also have this right here, which is an area map showing CD2 and CD4 and all relevant information, something you put on your refrigerator and keep us in mind. Again, this is nothing new. This is the stuff we've been passing out for months. It's just we're starting to run low. We'll have enough for the 11/27 Farmers Market and maybe for Luminaria, but coming into 2023, when the election cycle begins and we're really going to be getting out into the public and getting the word out that yes, there is a neighborhood council in the area and you can run for city office, we're going to need a lot of this stuff. So this is basically a refresh of what we already have. We may not spend the entire 400, it's up to 400. And it was actually something that was brought up in the outreach meeting that we may not need the stand display, which is basically what the Studio City, it's basically this one right here. I'll show you super quick. It is basically the one on the right. It's a handout and it's also a big on foam stand display. We may not need that, But if we have to, if the the ones we currently have are beaten up after Luminaria, we'll just go ahead and get one. So again, we may not spend the entire 400. It's there if we have to. That's all I really have to say about that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brandon. I think we can go to public comment if there is any public comment on what we just heard from Brandon and the need for some more flyers to carry some more money for more flyers. Raise your hand. You'll have a minute to talk on this item. Not seeing any hands. Public comment is closed. Anyone from the board have anything to say, or can we just go right to a vote on this? Let's vote.
All right, we are voting on item number 12, the $400 for up to $400 for flyer printing. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
Randall Freed,
Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Harbuck, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Karen Sarah,
Yes.
Adele, I think you're ineligible. Adam Summer is absent. Alexis Steinberg,
Yes.
Abigail Velasco is absent. Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. Moving on to item 13, that will be Barry. Barry, are you able to unmute yourself?
Hi. So, yes, I just want to thank the ad hoc committee that met 4 times since the end of July. And we found out 3 or 4 weeks ago that we needed to speed things up a little because the initial hearing is going to be taking place this coming Monday at 11 a.m., for which the link is on tonight's agenda. And what we have compiled tonight, the motion and letter, is specifically geared towards this initial hearing, that a hearing officer will hear anybody who wants to speak on Monday. It's a Zoom meeting. And anybody that wants to submit anything can do so, and that's what we're doing. And I would just like to also say that what we came up with is a compilation of all our members, input they have given to this total document, plus members of the public. And I will also say that similar motions to this have already been sent in by the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Specific Plan Review Board, which some of you attended a week ago or so. And the SCRA in the last few days has also passed and sent on to Moore Song, the hearing officer, similar. So right now I'm going to read the beginning of the motion, which is on your agenda tonight. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, opposes Los Angeles City Planning Department case number CPC-2012- I'm sorry, that's a typo, 2102-7012 DB MCUP WDI SPP SPR VHCA, unless the height is a total of the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor Specific Plans, VCBCSP, by right allowable height of 30 feet, plus the Los Angeles Municipal Code Ordinance number 179681, density bonus on menu, also by right, density bonus of 11 additional feet to provide for the density bonus units restricted to very low income households for a total of 41 feet. Furthermore, the SCNC opposes requests for any off-menu waiver or modification development standards that would have to be approved by the City Planning Commission, CPC, including a request for these 7 off-menu incentives at the site. 1, an off-menu incentive to allow a maximum floor area ratio FAR of 2.83 to 1 in lieu of the otherwise permitted 1.0 to 1 FAR. This is in excess of the 35% increase permitted under LAMC section 12.25A.25 F in parentheses, 4 in parentheses. 2, an off-menu incentive to allow a maximum building height of 94 feet in lieu of the otherwise permitted 30 feet plus the additional 11 feet granted by LAMC section 12.25A.25 F in parentheses, 5 in parentheses, for a total of 41 feet. 3, an off-menu incentive to allow 402 accessible standard vehicle parking stalls in lieu of the otherwise required 520 accessible standard parking stalls. 4, a waiver to allow 0-foot side yard setbacks in lieu of the otherwise required 10-foot side yard setbacks as required by LAMC section 12.22C.20. 5, a waiver to waive the otherwise required transitional height requirements as established by LAMC section 12.21.1A.10 for buildings in a C or M zone within certain distances of an RW1 or more restrictive zones, including OS zones. 6, a waiver to allow 0-foot distance between main buildings in lieu of the otherwise required distance. 7, a waiver to allow 0-foot rear yard setback in lieu of the otherwise required 20-foot rear yard setback as required by LAMC section 12.11C.3. That finishes those 7. The rest is the off-menu items that the CPC would have to approve go completely against the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor specific plans, VCBCSP, neighborhood and general commercial plan designation. In parentheses, the least developed of 3 designations within the VCBCSP. A land use designation, which is a focal point for surrounding residential neighborhoods and containing a diversity of land uses, such as restaurants, retail outlets, grocery stores, child care facilities, small professional offices, community meeting rooms, pharmacies, religious facilities, and other similar services. Additionally, Ventura Boulevard has the Boulevard 2 street classification, but Coldwater Canyon Avenue has only the Avenue 2 classification, a much narrower roadway which carries the vehicle traffic between the entire valley and Beverly Hills and beyond. This is one of the busiest intersections along the entirety of Ventura Boulevard and is on the critical intersections list of the VCBCSP. The VCBCSP has the purpose to assure a compatible and harmonious relationship between residential and commercial development, where commercial areas are contiguous to residential neighborhoods, as well as assuring that an equilibrium is maintained between the transportation infrastructure and land use developments in the VCBCSP, and within each separate community of the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard corridor specific plan area. And that ends that. The rest of the letter, you can click on motion letter and you can see it's probably, I think it's 8 pages plus 3 or 4 more with some photos. And I am now going to introduce our committee member, Peter Cole, who has done much for the visual aspect of what is proposed. And I will turn it over to Peter now.
Thanks, Barry. Wanted to make a couple comments and explain what we're going to present. Being that this project is one of the largest I've ever seen in Studio City, I asked Scott to request from Ben Besley from Midwood supply us with a 3D rendering of the project. A 3D rendering would allow us to look at the project in scale to its surrounding from any angle, unlike a flat photograph. The artist renderings supplied by Midwood appear to use what is called forced perspective, which tends to allow a developer to cast the project in a favorable rather than accurate light if they so choose. I never heard back from Ben about the request for a 3D model, so I contracted a professional architect to create one from the specifications found in the documents supplied to city planning. A 3D model or story poles on the property would give us a better idea of the size of this project. The model I created is accurate to size and shape, but does not have any details like windows, doors, exterior treatments, and that sort of thing. It's just to judge the size of the project, and this one is massive. For example, the IKEA in Burbank is the largest IKEA in the country. It's 456,000 square feet of floor area. The proposed residences at Sportsman's Lodge project is 650,996 square feet. That's 1.4 times larger than this IKEA. Another visual comparison is the amount of soil to be removed from the project site versus another well-known project. The defeated Harvard Westlake parking garage in Coldwater Canyon would have removed about a little over 100,000 cubic yards of soil from the site. The Sportsman's project is proposing to remove over 400,000 cubic yards of soil. Get this, that's enough to fill the Rose Bowl. So think about that. Anyway, on to the 3D. Here we go. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, let me zoom it around here. Take a look at Harvard Westlake, Weddington, and we'll turn the ship around. So I want to point out that while this is accurate, it's actually not showing all the details. Down here by the river, this is actually not showing here. The project is actually at the river level. There's another floor down here. So as the model drops into Google Earth, anything that is, like if this was on a flat dirt lot, all the detail of the model would be there. If there's any spaces in the model and something's higher, it pops through. So it's at the right height, but we're not seeing that. This should all be pink if we're looking at it. As you can see, the mature trees over here poke through, and this is the existing hotel. Let's move to another location. So it's pretty close to the river. They've asked for a 0 setback. I don't know the exact amount that it's actually set back, but as you can see, it's as Ben had said before, it's as tall as this apartment house, this first row, but it's right up to the river, and it's quite massive. There's another building that's also in front of Erewhon, and let's see if I can find it here. So that line is rough but close. That's a line to the nearest residence over there, the house. That's about 180 feet or less. That's how close this is. Spin around to another angle. We'll take a tour around the whole thing. If you have any questions, let me know.
I have a question about parking.
Hang on, Karen, we'll go to a public comment and then come back to the board.
Looks like there's an artifact walking around.
Well, this is Google Earth, and there are artifacts, like you'll see trees and, all this, it's, like I said, if these are the mature trees that are there and it pokes through the model.
Okay.
Anyway, if you want to see it from another angle, we can.
Well,
But
where's the gymnasium at? In the front, but where?
gymnasium?
The, whatever the name of that company is, the workout place,
Equinox, he's asking where the
Equinox.
Oh, that's up here.
Okay, thank you.
Those mature trees that are poking through the purple, those will all be cut down, I believe, correct?
To my knowledge, yeah, pretty much. I think we're starting over with trees on this property. There's also trees that were planted. So this is the existing parking lot, and you can see there's a building there. There were also trees that were planted as part of the condition for the shops, and those are being removed. City planning wants to consider these things as two separate projects, but I don't quite understand how that is because they totally overlap with the entrances for parking. Plus, they were requested to, they're taking their parking away. Anyway, it really, these two projects are tied. One other angle, let me see if I can show you this. It's a little hard to do without a preset here. Let me spin around this way. So just how close it is to the existing stores. Also, let me show you one thing around the front. So right around here, this is the, I guess this is going to be the exit for where all the trucks are going to go in and out for excavation. So this is all these trucks are going to go right by Takaya and Civil Coffee. So we've got 400,000 cubic yards of dirt. And I don't know if, I assume it doesn't include the debris from the demolition of the hotel. Estimating, from what I know about estimating truck trips, we're looking at over 70,000 truck trips. So I just don't see how this will get built without destroying all these businesses and the quality of life for all of us behind here. I live right over here. And I sent you guys all a video of little videos that I've collected every time I saw an anomaly on outside my door coming from this project. And I just can't fathom living here while this is under construction for 3 to 4 years.
Does your model
And
go to street
Peter,
level?
I think it's worth pointing out real quickly too that even though it's a short time ago, in terms of years, that the shops at Sportsman's were approved and built, those were built within the 30-foot specific can requirement. So, you know, times they have changed, I guess, on what developers want to ask for. But that was done with the 30 feet requirement. And you can see how the purple dwarfs the new buildings for the shops.
So at street level, it's a little weird because Google Earth itself is kind of goofy, and it works better when you get up a few hundred feet. Anyway, anybody want to see anything else, or are we good?
Let's go to public comment and then go back. You can unshare. You can always bring that back up again. And Chip, if you can time public comment this for 1.5 minutes. And thank the people for patiently waiting. First hand is Heidi. Go ahead, please. You have 1.5 minutes.
Hi, this project is so egregious. I mean, to build a building larger than the Burbank IKEA, seriously, in Studio City on Ventura Boulevard, it's really frankly beyond belief. Construction is anticipated to take approximately 43 months, and we all know construction times are grossly underestimated. So the community is asked to endure years of traffic, construction noise, and the very real potential to breathe toxic dust, as the estimated depth of the excavation for the subterranean parking and foundation would be 52 feet below grade. It's estimated that over 400,000 cubic yards of soil would be exported from the project site. To reiterate what Peter already said, that's enough dirt to fill the Rose Bowl. The previous board approved the landing next door. If this council approves this outrageous build, it will virtually put every store and restaurant out of business. I've been over there recently, and I've walked into the stores and I've asked them if they know, and they said, yeah, the hotel is getting renovated. And it just shocks me. These are managers of the stores, and they say, yeah, I heard they're renovating, and they don't even know. Their faces drop when I tell them, well, no, they're actually planning this thing. And, you know, and you probably already know there's one lawsuit pending, many more, I'm sure, to come. So at this point, I urge you to please support this motion. This is so egregious. It does not belong here at all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cosmo, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself.
Good evening. Thank you all for what you're doing. I'm the vice president of the Valley Glen Neighborhood Council, and just wanted to come here to express my support for your motion. I grew up in Studio City, went to Carpenter Avenue, still take my son to Beaman Park and go to Kearney's. So I love the area, and this project is awful and offensive to me. The fact that they're asking for 0 setbacks is ridiculous. Behind my house in Valley Glen, they're building a 3-story apartment building, and that's been hell for us. I can't imagine something of this scope in my neighborhood. And the building behind us is 36 feet, and it blocks out our sun. Our sunset now is at like 3:30 p.m. And so I can't imagine something that's 90 feet tall. And when the limits plus the extra they get is 41 feet, the fact that they're asking for 90 is offensive. And so I just wanted to come here to express my support for this motion, and thank you guys for what you do. And that 3D rendering that you did was really impressive. So keep up the good work, and good luck.
Thank you. Eric Previn, you have 1.5 minutes. Unmute yourself, please.
Thanks. Eric Previn, longtime resident of Studio City. I mean, you know, this is a bait and switch, because I think there was no residences when the original project came through. The speaker said that they're tied together. They are tied together. I believe that the land that surrounded the hotel was owned by the guy who developed the Center Weintraub. I mean, this is an unbelievable scam on the people of Studio City. And I'm very wary of why they're asking for such a giant monstrosity. It makes me remember the old adage that, you ask for more than you hope to get. So I feel like we're being played a little bit. This is such an egregious misuse of space. Somebody ought to designate the hotel a cultural historical landmark. It was confusing that they originally tried to designate the event center and didn't, again, it was bifurcated, didn't try to get the hotel designated, but they ought to, because it really should be protected. The experience of being at the corner of Coldwater and Ventura is something that Studio City stakeholders take seriously, and putting a huge box right there adjacent to the river where they're dazzling us with all sorts of programs to be healthy and athletic. This is an egregious, disgusting plan. And I want to ask the sportsman's guy to just address the question, which is, at the end of Project Roomkey, where they
Thank you,
volunteered.
Speaker.
Let me just finish the question. Did the $400,000 that they collected to fix up the hotel, well, if you're not going to fix up the hotel, we want that money back.
Thank you, Terry Austin.
Yes, I hope that you'll vote in favor of this. And Peter, thank you for doing such a wonderful job of explaining everything. The cultural heritage nomination that was made for the hotel, it specifically says in it that the developer was only going to develop part of the property and restore the hotel and leave it intact. And that's language that was in that original nomination. So it is just waiting a while and changing the whole story. The thing is just way too big for where it sits. I can't imagine the traffic that's already a problem with what's there now not being severely impacted. And then we just finished talking to the young man, Kevin, regarding everything that's going to happen up and down the corridor. So having this this huge, humongous thing in such an important intersection, it just seems like very, very poor planning. So please support the motion, and thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Joanne. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Joanne D'Antonio, and I serve as the CD2 representative to the Community Forest Advisory Committee, and I'm in support of your motion. Tree loss in this area has been devastating. Sportsman's Lodge has already removed a huge number of trees. So I have to conclude that this is piecemealing. Sunkist, huge eucalyptus trees, over 100 complaints about this that I recorded on my next door. Harvard Westlake has indicated that they want to remove over 100 trees. None of these trees will be replaced because we no longer plant tall trees. Developers, when they do plant exotic small ornamentals. What efforts have been made to preserve any trees on this project? Apparently none. And they're supposed to replace significant trees. Every 2 significant trees is supposed to be replaced according to the ordinance. Why are we overbuilding? We have 90,000 verified vacant homes, units last year. This project is not solving our homeless or low-income housing problem. Affordable housing density bonus is really being abused here. This is an affront to open space and just an unhealthy approach to community quality. I posted this project on Nextdoor, and removing 80 trees was horrifying to the community. A bucolic area that many of us have enjoyed will be destroyed. There is a reason that the developer did not win as mayor, and there is such flux on city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Tess. Unmute yourself, please. You have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. I agree with all of the previous speakers. I wholeheartedly support this motion. My name is Tess Taylor, and I find this to be a complete and utter horror show that's being dropped upon us by Midwood and its CEO, John Uzdan. So many things about this project are bad, and you noted that it's particularly so since the LA City Planning Department set the hearing date for next Monday, November 21st, which is the week of Thanksgiving, practically ensuring a low turnout. This is diabolical, and what the city of Los Angeles is allowing to be done should not be permitted. If you've wondered why rents are so high, the Texas-based company RealPage has worked with some of the nation's largest landlords to create a cartel to raise rents, according to a lawsuit filed last month. I'm thrilled to see that RealPage is being sued over allegations of collusion and price fixing. This all ties into developer greed. The fastest path to peak performance is what they claim. And if the allegations in the lawsuit are true, this is because of their market manipulation and price gouging. The aggregate negative impacts combined with the Harvard Westlake project cannot be overlooked. Today, everyone living in Studio City today will have quality of life or reasonable expectations thereof shattered, and will have to endure the massive permanent impacts of this out of scale development for the rest of their natural lives. That means massive traffic and noise at all hours, dust overcrowding, heat islands, water shortage, crime increase, strained infrastructure, loss of any and open or green space, trees, shade and shadow, higher cost of insurance, and massively increased density, people living on top of one another. The housing crisis that has been fed to us is a lie. It's even worse. It's a fraud being perpetrated on the public to induce their buy-in and approval to build more. This definition of fraud is knowing something is false and presenting it as true anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, go ahead, unmute yourself, please. Lori, are you able?
Sorry, I see it. Can you
There
hear
you are.
me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we hear
thank you
you.
so much. Yes, I totally support the motion. I agree with the previous speakers who are in support of it. This is truly an egregious project, as everybody has said. Again, I said last time, I'll say it again. This has to be considered in conjunction with the other 4 developments happening between Whitsett and Coldwater and Ventura and Moore Park, which are the destruction of Weddington Golf and Tennis by Harvard Westlake, this project, and then the 2 on either side of each other where Jerry's Deli and that whole strip is, and the one across the street from it going up the hill on Ventura Boulevard. The unbelievable amount of traffic that will be found on Ventura Boulevard. We can't get down Ventura Boulevard now. And Coldwater is a total disaster with the entrance to this parking lot on Coldwater, just waiting to block traffic and cause accidents. The whole thing is so outrageous that they have this fantasy they should be able to build this gigantic structure is ridiculous. It's the wrong place, just like Weddington is. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Louis Sanford, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good evening. Thank you for spending the time on this important issue. Very simply, I support this motion. This is a rather short-sighted proposal that, in effect, once again, crams about 20 pounds of new construction into a 5-pound sack of community. And also what's happened to that promise a long time ago when Midwood said the hotel would return after the first phase of their development. Really, what happened to repurposing, which seems to be the most logical and smart thing to do these days? So with that, I have to support this motion wholeheartedly. And let's put aside this wrecking ball mentality, which seems to be just simply out of control. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry. Unmute yourself, please. You have a minute and a half.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Yes, I live very close to the original parking garage on Coldwater, and we fought really, really hard to stop that. In the process, one of the residents on the other side of Coldwater complained, concerned about valley fever. I had never heard of it before. We did a lot of research into it, And it is indeed a very serious thing that happens when large amounts of dirt are removed. It can happen in an earthquake, which is in Simi Valley. There was a big rash of it due to the earthquake. So we did some research and asked for help from Cal State Bakersfield, professor there that works with valley fever issues. And we sent some samples of the dirt. Now, it did not show active valley fever in the area on the parking garage, but she could not conclude that it was not a possibility because of the samples were very limited. And that's in the dirt. It's here. It's endemic. It's just whether or not the conditions are correct and it can be released. The study also talked about the air quality. I haven't heard anybody say anything about the air quality. It's very bad around here because of the cars constantly every morning and in the evening backing up at that intersection of Coldwater and Ventura. So we already have an air quality issue, and
That's your time. Thank you.
just thank you.
Patrice, go ahead, please.
Hi, everybody. So my house is one of the houses in the illustration tonight. I'm the closest house to this project. My house was red tagged in the 1994 Northridge earthquake because we're on liquefaction here. I'm actually 40 feet or so away from the river edge. Sportsman's wants to, I believe, have a zero setback right down on the river. As far as I know, there's no EIR required for this project, which is crazy. It's so important. I mean, the water table here is approximately 15 feet. They want to go down over 50 feet, and that's like right to the river edge, and then build 650,000 square feet above. So anyways, there most likely is going to be asbestos in the hotel, as well as possibility of the valley fever that was just spoken about in the soil, as well as other contaminants. We all had upper respiratory infections and coughs during the construction of the landing. And I actually had to move out of this area during that construction. At times, to mitigate the dust, I have pictures of them using a garden hose to mitigate the dust over there. Anyways, I hope planning will do their due diligence and request for an EIR for this project. A large quake is expected soon. If every aspect of this project isn't looked at, many people could be hurt or die. I mean, this is really crazy. Anyways, I'm obviously for the motion. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. And Jesse, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. You have a minute and a half if you need it all.
No, I'll make it very short. I agree with everyone previously. I've asked the developer before. I truly believe this would be a great example of adaptive reuse. And in urban planning, that's when you are able to use existing infrastructure, existing buildings, and repurpose them for different and updated new needs of the time. And so I don't understand how we have such a large existing footprint there with the hotel. Makes perfect sense to repurpose it for reuse with apartments however they see fit, and it's much less of a environmental problem. So I'm hoping to get some clarification and hopefully have the developer think about that possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any more hands from the public. Public comment is now closed on this item. Thank you, everybody, for your input. We will now go to the board. I'll just make one quick statement. I received just up until showtime tonight, 95 emails, all in opposition to the project. 19 of them came to the entire board. The rest came directly to me. And now we'll go to board comments and questions. Ira, go ahead, please.
So I haven't heard this mentioned yet, but in residential real estate, a development like this, or even on a much smaller scale, would be considered a material fact disclosure that real estate agents would need to disclose, sellers would need to disclose to any potential buyers in those properties. So for anybody who may or may not be trying to purchase or sell their property in that vicinity, it's going to have to be a disclosure to a potential buyer. I can't say that it's going to negatively impact those homes, but I can speculate as such that it might make things a little more difficult to sell, make things a little more difficult to purchase. Personally, I have already started experiencing people mentioning that to me in a business capacity, and have these particular individuals have decided to exclude certain parts of the vicinity specifically for the possibility of this this project. Thank you.
Adele?
Hey, I don't think in any of their plans, their paperwork or whatever, the things they've applied to the city, that they've gone over any kind of what's the word, look at there's 89 trees that they plan to take down. 89, some of them are quite substantial, significant trees. And also one of the people on my sustainability committee found a endangered plant on the property. It's called a Nevins barberry, and it was found just 3 weeks ago. And, obviously they would be destroying that as well. And it is significantly endangered. I think there are 500 plants in all of our area. So, and all of the exceptions that they're asking for are just out of, sort of out of realistic requests to have zero setback. I think that to build 52 feet down to get all that parking, I really wish the Army Corps of Engineers would weigh in on that, because they are going into the water table and they will, I asked actually Ben Beasley, how could he do that? And he said, well, we're going to build the parking lot like a boat. And I thought, so what? It'll float away when the first rain comes? It doesn't even make any sense. So there's a lot of problems. I think there's a lot of things that haven't been particularly mitigated or looked at. And I think there's a lot that Midwood has to answer for. And I also just want to say that, Midwood is a New York developer, and they're coming into Los Angeles without knowing our community, without looking at our community, and without having some kind of respect for what would fit here. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Randy, go ahead, please.
Hi, Scott. Thanks so much. So first, I guess a thank you to the ad hoc committee for a succinct presentation. I think there's certainly a lot of valid points addressed. I guess, Barry, I have a question. And I'll preface the question by first saying the majority of the members of this ad hoc committee had their opinion known to this project, in that they were adamantly against any development before the plans even were issued, which I don't believe takes away from your presentation. But I do, or I should say, and also, I believe this can be presented to the council office as an element to chip away, perhaps, of very valid points raised. I'm curious, number one, if there was any talk with the developer, Barry, about mitigating the many concerns that this project raises, whether it's what about making a smaller project, that kind of thing. So that would be my question. The only follow comment would be, my concern is that, or a benefit of this plan, I would say, is that there are 78 very low income units, or at least how I perceive the city council office will perceive this plan, is that there are 78 very low income units that are being wholly paid for by private investment, as well as adding jobs. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I am concerned that they will see that, and they will see an ad hoc committee and neighborhood council who has perhaps not taken the time to try to work with the developer, who is also a stakeholder, to see if there's a better plan that isn't a no to any development, but perhaps is a no to what is being proposed. Was there any kind of conversation, or was that just not in the scope? Barry, could you speak to that at all? Thanks.
Yeah, there was this past summer, shortly before our first ad hoc committee meeting, Scott, Peter Cole, Lisa Sarkin, and I met with Ben and his land use attorney, and we, discussed our concerns, and we asked about the on menu versus off menu items, and the feeling that the four of us got from the land use attorney was they're going to get this, that the city planning commission is going to approve this. But it's not a done deal, because the city planning commission does consider what the communities are looking for, even with these density bonus ordinances. So, but I had the impression, and I believe the other three individuals that when we attended this meeting, that, we were being told that they had it in the bag really to make us go away. That's how I felt when we left that meeting anyway, speaking for myself.
I appreciate that, Barry. So just sorry to cut you off. So wait. So in other words, the short text is, apologize, Barry. And I'll, of course, you can finish right after. So then, just to be succinct, what you're saying is you came away with that meeting out of an interest of wanting to see if there was some common ground to be found. And you're saying the takeaway was from the developer side was they don't need to make any middle ground because they're going to get precisely what they want. Is that correct?
Correct. And it was after that point that we researched and found out that their off-menu items have to be approved by the CPC, and that's not an automatic approval.
Right. Thank you. Could we, Scott, could we potentially ask just that same question in terms of working towards a middle ground from Ben Besley on behalf of Midwood to see what Midwood's take is on the same subject, just out of curiosity? I'm just curious to hear what, if anything, Midwood would want to say to that.
Well, sure, Ben is listed on the agenda to answer questions, but keep in mind, the purpose of this motion is for Monday's hearing, where alternatives aren't even on the menu at that particular point. I also want to address the people who are on the committee, on the ad hoc. Everybody who applied made it to the ad hoc. There were two people suggested by the developer who contacted me, and I followed up with them, and then I never heard back. So no one was turned away or accepted based on viewpoint. Everybody who applied made it to the committee. So if that's a question for Ben, let's see if there's any others, and then Ben can respond as far as alternate construction plans that he may have for this project. Julie, go ahead.
Thank you, Scott.
And Scott, can I just
go ahead. And I
before
think Peter wanted
Ben get started, just that Randy was asking if we all went in, on the committee members all went in not wanting anything done on that property. I can't speak for the other committee members, but for me, I would be personally, I have no objection to apartments being there if they're 30 feet plus 11 additional feet for the density bonus low income people. It's the 96 feet, when we go from 41 to 96 is what I object to. That's my own personal viewpoint. So I was not against them doing anything, and I was not against the density bonus units. So just to be on the record, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Barry. I appreciate your work.
Barry, did you want Peter to chime in since he was there as well? He's got his hand up.
Sure.
Go ahead, Peter, and then we'll go to Julie.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I don't have a problem, if they build something that's respectful to the community. I have no issue with that at all. What I do have an issue with is every time I'm in favor of something, Randy goes out of his way to go the opposite. And if you can hear that if you listen to every single meeting where that's happened. Also, Randy is, I have an email from Randy, which is a Brown Act violation, showing his bias against me. He went so far as to contact the board before a board vote on me becoming a board member. Randy has a personal vendetta against me. So actually, Randy should recuse himself and not vote on anything that's within 500 feet of my home. Thank you.
Julie, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I was actually going to see if Ben Besley wanted to address why their asks are so huge. I mean, the variances with regard to height and FAR and setback, everything is so enormous in terms of the asks from the norm. It just seems hard to fathom why they would ask for all this unless it's just purely so that they can make a ton of money from rent on the apartments. So I would be interested just in hearing any type of justification for these asks. Thank you.
Then we'll go to Chip. And then we'll go to Ben, and he can answer those questions. I have them written down. Go ahead, Chip.
Yeah, so I agree with all the other points. One thing that has not been brought up is with regard to the zero setbacks, and we don't have a competent, complete master vision plan for the community. But one of the things we have discussed in terms of these projects is that we want to have access from Ventura Boulevard to the river. So there would be a way to actually walk around the buildings in a public access corridor and get to the river, where you could then pick up what will which will hopefully ultimately be a meaningful pedestrian and bike path. With the zero setbacks, you now are preventing anyone from walking through that property in a way that's aesthetically pleasing, that's functional, and there's emergency access issues there as well. So I just wanted to highlight the zero setback issue on the lateral side, not on the river side.
Jeff, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I recall at the July special board meeting dealing with Sportsman's, I raised the issue about the concurrent development over at the Harbor Westside project, where they're going to have 35,714 dump trucks full of debris carted out of that project. And it's anticipated this project, if it is at its extreme, will be 29,000 approximately dump trucks full of debris over a 5-month period. And I know Mr. Besley said he didn't have any information at that time. I just wanted to ask him if he had any additional information about problems that will arise if there are these two massive, huge projects going on at the same time, and their transportation impacts on the community with these huge debris and excavation projects. Thanks.
Adam, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so my question is definitely more general, but why can't we have anybody from the council office stay for our meetings? I feel like oftentimes we spend this sometimes an hour in discourse, and then this gets bounced off the office. We have no idea what the response is. I know the council office is not. I mean, there's a lot of different municipal, appendages that will have reach in this, but I guess we do this week after week, and I just wish we had anybody, even a rep, stay. I mean, there's got to be only like 5 or 6 maybe 5 neighborhood councils for each city council district. So I don't know, there's a level of absurdity that we have these conversations for so long, but we don't have any idea of what our response is from the council. So, or from our representative in this case. That's
Can
all.
I answer that real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Just add, Adam, this motion, should it pass, is being copied to Councilmember Rahman and her planning, her head of planning and her assistant planner and several other people in her office. So, you know, George having stayed tonight, it's kind of above his pay grade and it will go to the higher ups. And we're also copying everyone in Councilman Krikorian's office because they started with us on this whole project. So
Oh, definitely.
I just wish
we had more like transparent, clear, concise feedback. We never get it, and then we're left as neighborhood council board members with, you know, a certain level of ambiguity after we have these discussions. It just feels, I guess, anticlimactic. I guess so, because I don't know. It shouldn't be that hard for her to sit in on a meeting, especially when we have a very important issue. You know, there's one a month. There's 4 or 5 of us of our neighborhood councils. And it would do her a lot of good, I think, to actually hear out what we're saying. So that's all. And Randy, thank you for making some really good points earlier.
Anyone else from the board before we turn this over to Ben to answer? Dean Cutler, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to the ad hoc committee again and all your time and efforts. I'm hearing everybody and I'm clearly listening and seeing all of these on and off menu items that, and I think the project is, you know, needing a lot of help and ratcheting down and traffic mitigation and the staging of the project and the time and all of those things, which I think are all going to be in play here. But what I would like to see as well is some of the facts, and I'm grateful that Peter prepared that 3D. It's not a 3D. I don't know what the exact term is, but I would hope that if a 3D rendition can be done and it can be accurate and more accurate than that we saw that Peter, that Ben presented in the past, that we could get that and demand that, because when I see Peter Cole rendition and I'm happy to see it, but I would really like to see something that's more accurate, and it appears to me like a big purple monster, and I think we can do better than that. And I think Midwood can do better than that. We have technology that can do better than that and meet that, and we should be afforded that. You know, when I hear 91 feet, and correct me, Barry, I think it does step back, and we hear 91 and 91. It's not all 91. And I'm not saying that what's presented is what should be built, developed in the final rendition, but I just hope that we can look at the facts as they truly are and not be focused on the entire project is 91 feet. And again, I do think it's large. It needs to be ratcheted in several ways, and the community is speaking. But I think that those are just a few of the things that come out on and off menu topics and conversations and points here. So I would hope that we could ultimately, however this moves forward, that we can get that 3D accurate presentation. Thank you.
And I think if you look at the link to the entire motion and letter on tonight's agenda, the photos, the still photos at the end definitely depict the different elevations in height, from 94 feet being the tallest to lower points. So you might want to check out those 5 photos.
Well, I hear that, but when we talk, we don't talk in terms of those step ups. We just hear 91. So that's my point. And I'm not saying that, again, that I support it as is, but we need to be able to understand these steps, wherever they're going to be, how they're going to be, and how they're shown, where they lie at the property lines, all of that. Because it just seems to me like the 91 is, the top of the Empire State Building, and we're not focusing on what the others should be and could be, and that really should be properly depicted. Thank you.
Adam, is your hand back up, or is that still up from your previous comment? Okay. We're going to turn this over to Ben to answer the questions. Let me quickly review the questions as I wrote them down. We have one question from a stakeholder regarding $400,000 in damages to the hotel during Project Room Key. I believe the question was something along the lines of, was the hotel repaired? And now will it be torn down with those damages repaired? Another question, why are there so many asks to go above and beyond? According to the list of the 7, I believe it was. Does Midwood have alternate plans for a smaller project? The 0 setbacks and the way it affects the access to the river. The concurrent developments of the multiple projects occurring at the same time. And a more accurate 3D model from the developer. So the stakeholder didn't have to purchase one himself. So Ben, if you can sort of address all those, if you can, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Thank you very much, Scott. So before I get into all these questions, because a lot of different details were raised, I just want to get back to the point of, of the board looking at this motion. So this is a motion. I don't actually understand what the motion is, because it is very long, and then it includes a link to another letter. So I don't know if the motion is what's in the agenda plus what's in the link, because if that's the case, that's like a 4-page motion, and that, it's just a lot. So I'll start by just kind of focusing on what this motion is, the way I see it. And even before I do that, I just want to say, I really appreciate everybody spending this much time on it. I know Barry has spent a tremendous amount of time. I know Peter has spent countless hours. I know Scott, you've spent countless hours talking to Peter and to Barry. And I know this is a very important property. This is a very significant project, and I'm going to do my best to answer these questions, and just want to start by saying I appreciate that, we're talking about something, consequential. But, when I looked at this motion, I tried to respond to it. I tried to write a response out so I can, have some kind of a, give people who are going to vote on this motion some reason to perhaps vote no. I look at this as basically saying this project is too tall. That's what it says in so many words, because, the fact of the matter is there's an underlying density here in a commercial zone, 1 unit per 400 square feet. And the underlying density for a property of this size is 632 units. So no density bonus, 632 units. And the only way to build anything close to that is you have to start building stories. And that's kind of this, forgive the, it's not a play on words, but like that's the story here. We're going up between 4 and 7 stories to fulfill some, or I'll say a majority of the density of the property. That's what gets us to the FAR that's above the 1.1 to 1 in the specific plan, but we don't exceed the lot coverage. So if you just take the lot coverage that's allowed in the specific plan and you just build up to accommodate the units, that's what this project is doing. And I think when I read, and I'm going to get to all the setbacks and all the other stuff, but when you read through them one by one, that's effectively what this saying is. We think this project is too tall. And I can kind of explain that further. So let me go through some of the these questions I've heard, and I'll try to return back to that initial point. So first of all, I do want to point out that, you know, the motion that was approved at the PRB meeting a few weeks ago was outside the scope of that body's authority. That was reiterated by the planning department. And that was a motion that is incorporated into this motion. So there's some, we're talking about something that was, I'm going to suggest that there's a small number of people who have been, you know, this is consistent language that we're seeing in the PRB, which, by the way, we volunteered to do. That was a little bit of a surprise that wasn't actually a design review. That was sort of like it was something other than a design review. And sounds like similar language. I haven't seen what the SCRA is proposing, but similar language here. So I don't know, that probably not a coincidence, but it sounds like there's some sort of a coordinated effort to get some, you know, language approved by different bodies.
Can I make a clarification real quick? The PRB was told after the fact by someone higher up that they are completely in the right for submitting to the planning hearing. So just to set the record straight. Sorry.
No, that was what the planner said during the meeting. They said you can submit this as public.
Hold on 1 second. Hey, sorry, Ben. Scott, could we respectively just let Ben answer without interruptions?
Go ahead, Ben, keep talking.
All right, thank you. You know,
but also try to limit it to answering the questions. We're really not doing a presentation or a rebuttal.
I respectfully, Scott, what Peter Cole presented was grossly inaccurate. And if I'm not going to respond to that, then I can just skip it, but I just want to say it was grossly inaccurate. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a few minutes to address.
Yeah, I understand. I think one of the questions was, where is your version of the 3D rendering? So I guess that's the question. If you don't like ours, don't like Peter's, where's yours?
Sure.
So that was a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. The rendering that I saw that Peter made definitely does not depict our interface with the Los Angeles River in terms of our setback. Our setback is well behind the private property line. And the way that's depicted, it looks like we're building up to the river. And I think that was the comment that was made a few times. The building is not hot pink. The building has lots of landscape around it. And I think that's just, you know, that's a pretty dramatic visual presentation of something. The reason the IKEA building is so many square feet is because it's 1 or 2 stories. If you looked at a hotel building next door, it's probably more square footage, but it's on many stories. So I think that's a little bit of a math exercise we have to go through to figure out what the equivalency is. But I've been inside that IKEA. It's not that. I don't know how many square cubic yards the Rose Bowl holds, but I'm pretty sure this is not as much grading as the Rose Bowl. And you know, yeah. There's just a lot there. So I think that as a kind of a visual point leads to a lot of the comments that were made, which I guess it's not worth me trying to refute, but I'll just say that, you know, a lot of the innuendo that comes out of, you know, kind of displaying something like that and then talking through the why and the whatever, it's just inaccurate. So Cosmo made the first comment about the 0-foot setbacks. So the reason for the 0-foot setbacks is that if you look in the zoning, we actually have one section of the plan that is a different zone, and it requires a 0-foot setback only because we're abutting a different zone. If it's the same zone, it doesn't. And it also has to do with the fact that we have a change in elevation. And so you have to consider the next floor like a different level. It's something technical having to do with the plan. But if you look along the whole perimeter of the building, we have setbacks everywhere. So the whole idea that we have 0 setbacks has to do with the underlying zones that are there and the slope of the building. But if you look around the perimeter, we have 0-foot setbacks. The question about Project Roomkey, I have no idea where a $400,000 number comes from, number one. Number two, this is not a meeting about Project Roomkey. If we want to have a separate meeting about Project Roomkey, I'm happy to talk about it. Miss Austin, I didn't get her first name. I don't know anything about the historic designation or the Cultural Heritage Commission that would have submitted something with a partially built hotel. Happy to look into that if you'd like. Joanne made a comment about preserving trees and not solving the housing and affordable housing crisis. I don't know. I'm not sure I can respond to that question because I think this directly responds to the housing supply issue and affordable housing supply issue. Tess had a comment about, again, same thing, housing prices is a fabrication, which again, I can't really respond to. Lori, I didn't know quite how to respond to what she said. Lewis had a question about repurposing the hotel. So we spent the first couple of years while we were managing the event center and getting ready to start construction on what we call the shops at Sportsman's Lodge. We spent about 2 years doing different designs and business plans to repurpose the hotel. We talked to every large chain. We talked to every boutique hotel operator you can think of. And nobody could give us a plan that showed this making any financial sense. This is not a location where you build a hotel today because it doesn't have weekday business. And unless you can do weekday business the way the economics of the hotel industry work, it's just not viable. We found that, our profit was eroding before the pandemic. And all of the kind of market studies were showing us that all of the development that was happening in Hollywood and improvements to the property in Universal City were contributing to that. And so it just didn't make any economic sense to do it. But we invested, almost 2 years studying that. So that was the initial plan. I don't know who made the question about valley fever. If that is true, that's definitely a concern. And I think the conditions of approval would cover that. And we can look at the conditions to make sure that we have, adequate coverage for any kind of airborne dust. In terms of air quality, this is a building and a garage that will be, to the degree we can do it, it will be basically plumbed for all electric cars. We believe in, in another 20 years, 75% of automobiles will be electric. And so we're gonna design for that. And so I think that is contributing to helping air quality. Patrice asked the question about the EIR. Our environmental document is called a Sustainable Communities Environmental Assessment. It has the exact same studies as an EIR. So the traffic study in the EIR is the same one we did. The historic study, same. Greenhouse gas, same. All the same studies. It just takes a different process. It's a 3,600 page document. And it's been in circulation since June or July, something like that. But it is effectively an EIR in terms of the details of the project and studies. I think she had a similar question about the 0-foot setback. And again, it's not a function of setback against adjacent property. It's setbacks within and between property lines within the project. And Jesse asked the question about adaptive reuse, and that was sort of a similar response to the hotel. We have studied the hotel, and if it made sense to just repurpose the hotel, we certainly would. I'm going to get to, and did I miss anything in the initial set of questions? I was going to move on to the board members' questions.
I guess the question still stands. Is there going to be a more accurate 3D model from you?
No, there's not.
Okay.
And let me explain why. 3D models show you what a project looks like if you were circling over the project at 300 to 500 feet. That's not how anybody is ever going to see this building. It's not how you look at your house. It's not how you look at anything. You see things from an eye level perspective. We've done lots of eye level perspectives. I have an eye level perspective I can show you from across the river. We actually took it from pretty much the end of Alcove because we wanted to show an extremely accurate depiction of what these buildings are going to look like, both the existing shops and the new buildings from the perspective of Peter and Patrice's street. So we've done that. But going up 500 feet and looking down on a building doesn't tell us anything about how you're going to experience it driving up and down Ventura Boulevard, for example. So we don't do them. We don't look at them. That's not how we look at and design buildings.
May I ask a question, since my name's been brought up a few times here?
Go ahead.
As far as the 3D model, if what you just said is true, Ben, why didn't you say that when we first asked you for the model? That would have been a good answer. Instead of there was silence. You were asked a couple times by Scott for the model. That's what motivated me to do this. Also, the artist renderings that you have up, the one in particular that is from my perspective over the river, I've superimposed photos that I've taken, and they're not accurate. They employ some omissions. For instance, there's no mountains in those pictures, and the perspective is a little skewed when you don't see the exact details that we're used to looking at. The vista is extremely wide, which is indicative of forced perspective. I can show you what I created. Since this is the first I've heard, since we've had so many conversations over the years, I would have thought that if you wanted to, quote, get me on your side, you would have shared that viewpoint from Alcove. But this is the first I've heard of it. So, story poles tell us a lot. This 3D model, I can show you from the ground, but your renderings don't show all sides of the project. So if you have something to show me, I'd love to see it. I'm going to say it again, contrary to what Randy thinks, I have no issue with something being built over there. I understand that. It's your property. But what I'm against is the lack of cooperation that's going both ways. I've asked you for trees, you come over, then we don't have any further conversations about it. If you have no intentions of doing trees, just tell me. I just want to know what it is you're thinking of building there. But I have absolutely no issue with something respectful for the community being built on that property. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Scott, my name was mentioned as well. May I respond?
Well, no, not yet, because we're not going back to public comment, and Peter was actually presenting as part of the committee.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, let's let Ben try to address those, but he still also, Ben, you didn't address, I believe Randy touched on it, and Julie as well, and another comment. Do you have another set of plans that is much smaller?
No.
You don't? Okay, so that answers, I think, the point that Randy alluded to about us working with you to come up with a perhaps alternate plan. And again, I'll remind everybody, the hearing is Monday. So go ahead, Ben, sorry.
To Ira's question about the, disclosures in property, I am not in the business of, selling single family homes. I do know that a home on Alcove, it looks like 4236 Alcove listed, actually went into a contingent offer on August 6th at $1.4 million and then sold 20 days later at over $2 million. So I think that there's some evidence to suggest that, property values continue to climb. I know from anecdotal, just seeing some flyers that a lot of the amenities at the Sportsman's Lodge are listed as, part of the advertising. So I don't know about real estate agent disclosures. I don't know if that, how that affects it, and if there's something that we can provide to anybody in the real estate agent business to make that, resolve that issue. We certainly will.
Hey, Scott, can we generally move towards a vote? I mean, I think we're just going to circle for hours at this.
Hang on, Adam. Ben, if you have to go, Adam, you're free.
No, it's not about that. I mean, it's a lot of this is supposed to be done in
Ben is-
committee, and like this is just not how meetings are done usually.
Really?
Hey, they're progressive. You got to move towards votes. Like,
Uh,
I mean, this is,
we
have you
will.
been to
It's-
other neighborhood councils?
It's a big issue, and Ben is here, and we're going to give him the opportunity to answer the questions. So Ben, you don't have to address the comments like what you just addressed
Exactly.
about disclosure of construction projects that real estate agents have to disclose to single family homes. That's really not a question. That was somebody just making a point, as were some of the others. So as far as the questions directed at you, if you can sort of focus on those, there may be more. I still see board member hands up. If you have any more of the questions you want to answer, that's fine. If not, we can let Dean and Richard ask some more. So, and just a note to the public, we're not going to be going back to public comment. It was an extended public comment period, and we've had ad hoc meetings for quite some time. And what's on the table right now is the motion. Yes, I know it's long, but so is the SCIA, and so are the documents at the Planning Commission. It's a big project. And I just want to say, I don't think people were simply saying it was too tall. They were saying it was too big. It was not enough parking and all that other stuff. And we've already been through all that. So it's kind of not fair to say tall only. And I believe the other building is 61 feet and the other is 37. So they're all taller than Equinox, if I'm correct. So anyway, go ahead, Ben, with the questions. And if you're done answering questions, we'll go back to
let me try to focus on the questions. I appreciate everybody's been on this call for a long time, and a lot of us have been through these issues before. Julie asked the question, why so big? Why propose such a a project of this scale? And it gets back to what I was describing initially, that the underlying zoning has a pretty substantial density before any sort of density bonus is applied. And staying with the lot coverage, that we then add stories, and we tried to do it as carefully as we could, stepping the building back on Ventura Boulevard, stepping the building back against the river, making sure the building is not as tall as the apartment building on the other side of the river that sits right behind Patrice Berlin's house. So we tried to be sensitive in terms of where the building is tall. Again, because you will not experience this from an aerial perspective. You'll experience it from the river view. I'm glad Jeff brought up the comment again about concurrent construction with Harvard Westlake. We actually have had conversations with Harvard Westlake about that. And we are working on a condition that we have to, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot here, but we're working on a condition that would provide some alternate truck routes in the event that both projects are doing grading or like significant construction activity at the same time. So I think that I don't have final language on that yet, but that was directly from your comment you made earlier. We set a meeting with David and Ari, had 2 different conversations with them, brought in our general contractors, talked about what the feasibilities of different routes. And so I think we have a condition that we're going to be volunteering on that one. I think, again, I was writing down every comment I heard, every question. I can respond to all of them. But again, I think that I want to go back to kind of my initial, summary of this, which is that, I appreciate that there is a concern about the height of these buildings, and height, is also massing and shade and shadow and this sort of thing, and the scale of the neighborhood. I appreciate that. What I have heard very little of in all these conversations is, the benefits of a development like this, about adding housing supply. You might not like the form of it, but like adding housing supply to the market, adding a very significant number of affordable housing units that would allow people that are already working in the neighborhood to afford to live in the neighborhood, about opening up the Los Angeles River path in the way that Chip described it, by basically creating a pedestrian path from Ventura Boulevard directly to Los Angeles River in a way that is completely privately financed. Nothing like this could, is going to happen with public dollars as far as I can see. So, I will, I know we're sort of out of time and there isn't time to go back and, go through these meetings again. I regret that we haven't had a lot of constructive conversations in the ad hoc committee, in land use or anything else about, additional improvements to the river. We did get a handful of very helpful, productive comments about our retail store frontage on Ventura, and we actually changed the design of that building very significantly based on that feedback. I would, if time permitted, I would love to continue to have conversations about how the buildings could change. But I think that, in my perspective, from my perspective, and I apologize, it's getting late. I'm sort of losing my train of thought. But from my perspective, the way I read this is that all of the off-menu items are effectively, it's just to create the form of the building. They're technical. It's how we can, put mass in one side, which means, the residential units on one side of the building means we have to do something else someplace else. So, we're crossing over the transitional height limit. In some cases, we're inside of it. In some cases, we're outside of it. It's just the way it jogs, it doesn't quite match the height of the building. But we're stepping back. We're stepping back on Ventura Boulevard. So, with all of the off-menu item, not all, a significant number of those off-menu items, it's really just to accommodate the form of the building. I'll wait anxiously to see what the outcome of this vote will be. I can't really tell based on the comments so far tonight how it's going to go, but it's with all of these comments, I really do appreciate that. This is it's a major project. It's a big project. The height of it is something that is outside of what's currently allowed in the specific plan. And I just hope that you all will see the benefits to additional housing in your neighborhood, affordable housing for the people that live here, improvements to Los Angeles River, improvements to transportation infrastructure in terms of traffic signals and things like that. Regardless of where this vote goes and what happens in the hearings, I'm here every day, and I'll look forward to working with all of you guys going forward. Thank you. You're muted, Scott.
Dean, Richard, and then Karen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ben. I wanted to revisit something that I think I heard. I wasn't sure, but it had been on my mind for a while, and that is the by right amount of units that could be developed. Did I hear something along the lines of 630 units? You're muted.
The square footage of the parcel, without a density bonus, 1 unit per 400 square feet yields 632 units. And with the 35% density bonus, that would take us to 853 units. And recall that our proposals for 520.
That would be with no commercial, right? That wouldn't be mixed use then. It would just be strictly residential.
They don't, it's like they count it separately. It doesn't, you can have, I think there's a maximum percentage of commercial, but it doesn't, like the number of units, if you added commercial, it doesn't net against the number of units.
You can go to over 600 with all the commercial retail that you're proposing?
Yes.
And how much taller would that be?
I mean, theoretically, every apartment could be 50 square feet and then it wouldn't be very tall. But
realistic-
That's the one, one per 400.
Yeah.
So that's why we think 520 is challenging. What does 620 sound like?
And
That doesn't, we still have the traffic problem. We still have all the other concerns, but that's.
We were not maxing out this site. This is not the max proposal to then, try to do something else with. We really felt like this was the right project and feel like it's the right project. So.
Yeah, I just thought I heard that. I wanted that to be clear. Thank you.
Richard?
Okay, obviously, I've mentioned before that the height of 96 or 94 feet is too tall in my view. And I'm not going to get it. Patterns. I'm sure that's for vehicles. I'm sure that's doable. That's possible to do. My question is, any full of market rate for compared to the discount rate places, are you ready to trade off to get this signed off tomorrow?
You were breaking up a little bit, Richard. What was the question?
Free market rate with units, same size, would you be willing to trade off for subsidized low income rates, basically, to get this approved?
I think that's the 15% that we're offering. That we've
Saying is, I know that you're offering. Would you be willing to offer more to get this signed off?
Are we negotiating? I don't understand the question.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to say, is there a number which the planning commission would approve because it was so outrageously good that they would forget every other objection?
There is the number of affordable units, the percentage that we're offering is a higher percentage than virtually any project that's been approved by the city in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. We made an initial decision. There is a way to classify certain, off menu incentives as waivers and things like that, and start at a lower percentage. I think at like 11 or 12% like that. But we made a decision early on that we were going to propose the maximum number of affordable units, and that's what we did.
Okay, I was just trying to see is if in their own words, planning wanted to sweeten the deal that way, not with height or anything else, if that's the only way to get this approved, what's the number you signed off now?
And I didn't hear the end of your question, but I think the answer is we would keep the same number.
So you wouldn't like, for example, offer 18%, let's say, to get this put away and approved?
No.
Or 19%? You would not? Okay. Thank you.
Karen, and then Adele, then Julie.
My general concern in LA is that there's not enough parking. So I don't understand the logic of building apartments where some apartments wouldn't have dedicated parking spaces. I'd like you to address that. And then, and the other concern that I have about sustainability in a long-term sense for the community is the quality of building that happens, the buildings or apartments that people will actually want to live in. So if you could address the quality of the construction, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, thank you for asking the question. I meant to mention it earlier. In terms of parking, as you may know, the city code and state laws requiring less and less parking. And the project that we're proposing is parking the commercial, actually I have to get all these numbers straight. I'm just looking at it a second ago. It's parking the commercial to code, and it's parking the residential to essentially somewhere less than what would be the standard code. There's a new state law AB 2345, which allows a reduced parking count, but our number is somewhere in between there. And what that came down to is it came down to us mapping out a 3-story subterranean parking garage and fitting as many parking spaces as we possibly could, including using mechanical systems. When we go to build the buildings, we hope to be in the business of leasing apartments, and we understand that people usually want to have more places to park a car. And if we can build more, we will. We're actually building an automated parking system in a building in Philadelphia right now. We've contracted with a consultant that's working both domestically and internationally on very large scale automated parking systems. And so, what the final parking number will be is to be determined, but what we're committing to is that we would do at least the number in the plan. And that is for all 1 bedrooms, 1 dedicated parking space. For all 2 bedrooms, most of them have 2 parking spaces. I think we're at 1.7, I'll call it 1.75 for the 2 bedrooms. So not every 2 bedroom has 2 spaces. That's how the numbers currently roll out. In terms of the quality design, this is something that, I think I didn't get a chance to talk about, but if you've been to the shops at Sportsman's Lodge, that is our example. You haven't been yet. Okay, please come by. That is our best example of the type of design and quality of construction that we build to. Midwood is a family-owned company. We are a long-term investor, and the family's owned the Sportsman's Lodge Hotel since it was built, or has been an equity investor since it was built in 1962. And we build things to hold for a long time. And so we spend the money, hire the best designers we can find. If you look up Marmol Radziner, that's the building designer. They are world-class. Olin is our landscape designer. They did the landscape design for the shops. They're the county's master planner for the river. They are based in Philadelphia, and we help them grow their office in Los Angeles, so they could work on our project. They do Yale University. They do the Washington Monument, House Square in Philadelphia. Like, they do big institutional stuff, and they were much more expensive than anyone else we could hire. But we see that, we see the level of design is so important, especially in the landscaping. And so if you look at the renderings of the shops project compared to what is there today, we think we've beat the renderings, and that's our intent for this as well. It's going to be very rich materials, heavily landscaped, everything Rio compliant. We've actually relocated some of the trees from the original shops, and we'll try to find a place for them when we do the new project. And that's cost we don't necessarily have to spend, but that's kind of how we approach things, and that's how our CEO wants to see it done.
So before we go on to any more questions, let's keep in mind the motion that's on the table, the hearing on Monday, and what it is we're discussing. And although I'm sure we all appreciate the design and things like that, the quality, we're not here to discuss that. All these things were discussed during the ad hocs and previous committee meetings. So I just want to remind everyone again, this is the purpose of this motion is for Monday's hearing before city planning. And depending on how that goes, that's when there could be negotiations as far as what Richard was talking about, or other changes. As we heard, there are no changes to the plan right now. This is what's coming before city planning on Monday. So we're not discussing those changes at this meeting. So let's try to focus on what it is we're voting on tonight. And then before we're all done, I don't think that was a project room key question that the stakeholder asked. I think they asked if the hotel is being repaired while it's scheduled to be demolished. So if you didn't want to answer that, that's fine. I know there's plenty of documents going around that shows a $400,000 invoice. So it wasn't an issue of Project Roomkey. It was actually an issue about the demolition of the hotel. Adele, go ahead, please.
So one of the concessions or waivers you're asking for is to permit a 2.84 to 1 floor ratio area in lieu of a 1.0 to 1 floor area ratio. And could you just explain that?
Sure. Well, you know, the total square footage of the property, let me get that number for you. Don't have it off the top of my head. 5.8 acres, 252, almost 253,000 square feet. When we design the buildings and then, you know, measure the overall square footage of the buildings, you take that total number and divide it by this 253,000 square foot number, and that's how you get to that ratio. And so it would suggest that, you know, the specific plan in this, it's called the Neighborhood and General Commercial Plan Designation, has a 1-to-1 floor area ratio, which means that theoretically you'd cover the entire site with a 1-story building. So there's 1 square foot of floor area for every square foot of land area. It means that, you know, theoretically, if you have a 60% lot coverage, then you would take 60% of the site, cover it, and the remaining 40% you'd stack on top of that 60%. That would be kind of one way to be compliant with those development requirements for
To the 1-to-1, you mean?
Yeah, because the 1-to-1 means that on a 100,000 square foot parcel, you have 100,000 square feet of building.
So if I understand this correctly, this is how you kind of get a bigger building, right? And how you can say like, oh, well, we could have 620 apartments, but if you had 620 apartments or 520 apartments at 1-to-1, it would be a much smaller building. Am I correct?
Well, you just have really, really small apartments.
You'd have a smaller building, correct? Overall, you'd have a smaller building.
Yeah, if it was 1-to-1.
Yeah. So one of the exceptions you're asking for, which is the 2.8 whatever to the 1 instead of the 1-to-1, makes your building much, much bigger. Correct?
Well, I would say it's kind of the other way around. The building itself is bigger, and then when we measure it, it gets the ratio.
If you did 1-to-1 for 520 apartments, it would be a smaller building. Yes or no?
It wouldn't. You could do 1 unit at 1-to-1, and it would be the same size building.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the exceptions you're asking for, which is what we're voting on tonight, is to make have a bigger building instead of 1-to-1 apartment buildings, 2.84 to 1. That's just more than twice the size. So that's one of the exceptions that you're asking for. All the other apartments in our area have 1-to-1. And so that's, in other words, when you guys are listening to what he's saying, you've got to hear where the pieces are that the exceptions make it a much bigger project. That is, in my opinion, ill-suited to our area. And so there's kind of like there's a problem with density here. And the density, and he's getting more density by bigger a building. And the other thing is that in order to be eligible for your SCEA instead of a DEIR, a residential or mixed-use residential project must be consistent with the general use designation, density, or building intensity. And this is not. Because of that particular exception and some of the other exceptions of the setbacks, it is not consistent. And so I think the city might end up having to ask for an EIR instead of this SCEA. And that will require a deeper look at the environmental impacts and the impacts of a bigger building and the impacts of no setbacks, et cetera, et cetera. So all the things that are in Barry's motion address those things. We're not trying to talk about whether he should or shouldn't build. It's not about that. It's not about anybody saying that this shouldn't happen. It's about saying what's happening. The exceptions they're asking are too much for what we can withstand in our community and what is appropriate to build on Ventura Boulevard. So I'm just trying to sort of, stop the spin of this, like, oh, this thing is so, this thing fits, it's not too big, but it is very big. And the exceptions they're asking for are very big, and they make it a bigger project. And you should be more honest about that, Ben, really, seriously. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought that's exactly what I was saying.
No, you're not saying that.
Okay, well, that's what I meant to say.
No, you're not saying that.
Okay, well, I apologize if that's how it came across.
Okay.
Julie, go ahead, please.
Thank you. That Adele's question might be getting to what I was getting to, which is I'm trying to understand the math, because I think the way I understood what you said is that the square footage of your lot says that you can build 632 units. You're planning to build 520, but they don't really fit unless you get all these exceptions. So that doesn't make sense to me. If you built 632 units, were you saying that they had to be 400 square foot each? Or I'm not following the math if I explained the first part correctly.
Okay, well, Scott, I'd love to answer this question. Let me answer this question, but let me know if I'm going too far in the weeds here. So the density of what's currently allowed there's no practical relationship between that and the allowed floor area. So if you're building 1-to-1, 253,000 square feet, and you're going to build 600 apartments, that means every apartment is like 33 square feet. It's just not practical, right? Or something like that.
Well, you're not building, you wouldn't build that number of apartments. I think you're presenting it backwards for us to understand. In other words, if you're only able to build X number of footage based on the size of the apartments you're building now, you wouldn't be building 520 or 620, you'd be building 108. I don't know what the number is, but it would be a considerably smaller amount of apartments, not the same number of apartments that are super teeny tiny, smaller than a tiny home. So I think what Julie's trying to get at is you need to build a larger building to build that number of apartments of a rentable size.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that, Scott. I think you.
Okay. I know it's getting late. It's already after 10. Barry, are you still here? I think so.
Yes, I am.
Okay, before we wrap up and go to a vote, was there anything from the committee that you guys wanted to add? I don't see any more board hands up. Did you want to make any point about Monday's hearing and the fact that there may be another bite at the apple depending on what transpires on Monday? Or
Well, of course there will, because the hearing officer will make a determination and send it on to the City Planning Commission. So we will again have the opportunity to chime in to the City Planning Commission based on what the hearing officer has recommended. So this is really, it's like we've only just begun with this initial hearing, but it is very important because the hearing officer makes many determinations right at the beginning now that will affect us down the road, as Richard was saying, perhaps, and I've seen hearing officers in the past say, okay, we're going to let you do this, but we're not going to let you do that. And you talk to the community and maybe you can do that. So there could be some negotiation after this hearing officer meeting, but that's why it's important to turn something in before it, so we're ready to go forward after that person makes their determination.
And after that determination, depending on what occurs, the ad hoc will then continue its work. Is that-
Right.
Okay,
And we might have to do so very quickly because sometimes the city planning commission will schedule it almost right away. You just never know. You never know.
okay, very good. I think, I don't see any more hands. Are we ready to, is the board ready to vote on the
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
Let's vote.
All right, we're voting on item number 13 to oppose oppose the particular project with exceptions. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler. Dean? Let's go back to Dean. Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
Randall Freed. Randy? I'll circle back to him. Ira Gold.
Sorry about
Randy, what's your vote?
sorry about that. Had internet issues. No.
Ira Gold.
Yes.
Jeff Hartwick, yes. Julie Houlihan.
Yes.
Scott Mandel.
Yes.
Chip Meehan.
Yes.
Brandon Marino.
Yes.
Richard Niederberg.
Yes.
Karen Sarah.
No.
Adele Slaughter.
Yes.
Adam Summer. Adam, are you out there? I'll circle back to Adam. Alexa Steinberg.
No.
Abigail Velasco is absent. Let's return to Dean Cutler. Are you there?
I'm here.
What's your
Abstain.
vote?
Abstain.
And then let's go back to Adam Summer one last time. Adam?
I'm not seeing him on the call,
Okay.
at least in the panelists sections.
Okay, he's
He
I'll mark
might
him
be
as-
in attendees if he got knocked out, kicked out.
He's not there.
I'm not seeing him.
so I'll mark him as absent. Motion passes.
Thank you again, everybody. Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Ben, and thank you, everyone who participated. Barry, are you up for number 14?
Yes, 14A should be fairly self-explanatory. And this council file, by the way, is only to explore more council seats. And we wrote it the way we did because we don't want to see, let's say we're spending $100 million a year on our legislative body now. If we increase our council members, but still have the same, but still have the same amount of population, you know, we don't want to see the cost of our legislative branch doubling. So the motion goes, the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, opposes Council File 22-1196 unless the new total of city council seats does not exceed the current total city council budget. For example, if the total number of council seats is increased to 25, the total city council budget would be divided by 25 instead of the current dividing by 15. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS, to Council File 22-1196.
Thank you, Barry. We're going to now go to public comment. If anyone has a comment regarding the motion you just heard read regarding the increasing of city council representation, this is what we're on right now. Raise your hand. We're doing 1 minute for this item. I see one hand from FBI. Go ahead.
Yes, they're everywhere, aren't they, Brandon? Everywhere. These snitches are everywhere. Yes, that's why Goat Puppet was late tonight. He was doing a special project today on Ventura Boulevard, and he brings bad news. This motion's a ruse. See, they're not going to extend the number of seats. They're just going to extend it if there's 257,464 new additional Angelinos. That's not what we want, do we? No, we want a part-time legislature and 30 seats. So Goat Puppet can join the council as a part-time nobody. That's what you want, and that's what I want. But for now, we will oppose this horrendous fraud on all of us. And thank you, snitches on Radford. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Where the hell have you been all night?
Not seeing any more hands raised from the public. Public comment on this item is closed. Back to the board. Comments or questions before we go to a vote? Any Chip, go ahead, please.
So Barry, within the cost of this, if we go to 25 council seats, is there also a staff under each of those council members? So if we, right, so basically there would be less dollars that were liquid, if I can say that, per citizen, per person in the population, if we didn't raise it proportionally.
But they'd have less constituents, so they wouldn't necessarily need as large a staff. And really, just to be honest, really what this motion is just, in my opinion, nudging the council to look at is the fact that nobody in proposing this has looked at the fiscal aspect of doing it. And that's what we're trying to get them to look at. They're just willy-nilly saying, oh yeah, let's have 25, let's have 30. No one at City Hall has addressed the cost of this. So this is kind of nudging him into thinking about that. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to see our legislative branch double in cost.
Because we're probably not going to get twice the services.
Well, I think most of your services come from other departments and not directly from the services of council offices.
Adele?
Oh yeah, I'm unmuted. I just don't understand. I don't get why they want to expand. I don't understand it. I mean, if there was more, I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't understand.
They feel the current 15, there's too much concentrated power, which is why we had what we had with Nuri Martinez. And sorry, they just think that they need to be representing a smaller group of people and not 260,000 people for each council member. And in New York, for example, they have about 50 for 8 million people. So that's why they were saying 25, let's say, for our 4 million. We're like half the size of New York.
Well, it seems like a good idea to expand, but it seems like they haven't thought it out.
Right, and
mean-
they definitely haven't thought of the cost.
So they haven't thought it out or how they would, you know, is there a way to oppose it while saying, we think it's a good idea, but they haven't figured out, they haven't figured out how to do it?
Well, that's why we say we oppose it unless they consider the fiscal aspect.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Brandon?
Yeah, on the motion, they're talking about the city attorney, the chief legislative analyst, but they're not talking about, like, I think it's Ron Galprin. I think he's a city controller. They're not talking about the financial aspects. They're not saying whether or not each council member is still going to make $207,000. They're not talking about that. As Barry's mentioning, they're just kind of throwing it, seeing if it sticks against the wall without actually looking at the dollars and cents of it. And there's no, Barry can correct me if I'm wrong, there's no protection against the city council giving themselves a raise in the near future. Maybe they say, oh, well, we'll take a hit financially, and then 2 years later say, well, let's give ourselves a raise. Let's increase the budget. I don't think there's any safeguards against that either. But again, Barry can correct me if there is.
No, you're right. And the other thing is, I've heard this many times. Our city council is the highest paid city council in the nation.
Yes. McSoman as a Superior Court judge.
Is that your comment, Richard?
No.
Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
Okay. Obviously, New York has a borough system, and some of the borough leaders are even more corrupt than our city council, but we won't go there. I'm wondering basically, how is it physically going to work? I mean, absolutely there. Are they going to make the parking for people? The seating for people is going to be smaller. Do we want less people there watching city council making comments? I think we want more. There's not going to be much room if we add extra people on each side. Like 5 or more, take up a lot of room in Horseshoe. That's all.
And Julie?
Thanks. I just wanted to comment that I think it's a smart way that Barry brought this up, because a lot of neighborhood councils and a lot of people in general are supporting more council members and making the council districts smaller, which seems like a really good idea. But as he pointed out, our council members make more than our governor. They make more than a US senator. They make great money, which is, right, not only their salary, but they get a car allowance and all these other things. So if they vote for this and keep the budget the same, they're actually going to be voting sort of for a pay cut, or maybe they keep their pay and they reduce their staff or figure out how to make a certain amount of money work. But I think that Barry brought up a great point, and it's worth pointing out, and that's why I want to support this motion.
So I'll just add, if you all remember at the beginning of the mayoral campaign, the city attorney, Mike Fuhrer, was running for office, and he was running on something very similar to this, a increasing of the city council members and not an increase in their salary at all. In fact, a decrease proportionate to the increase in the numbers of council members. And then we would have situations like where, say, Studio City is not split between 2 council members, which is pretty ridiculous in my view. There should be at least enough council members to go around where a city like Studio City or Sherman Oaks or any of the other cities are not split. Also, keep in mind, this goes hand in hand with B, the next motion. So let's not forget the fact that regardless, there will be redistricting. The redistricting is going to pass, and the best time to do the redistricting is when the number of council members change as well. So I totally support this, and I agree with what Julie said. The way Barry wrote it, it makes a lot of sense for them to think about money. Not seeing any more hands. We ready to vote? Let's vote.
Let's do it. We're voting on item 14A, motion opposing expansion of the city council seats unless the total number of seats does not exceed the current total city council budget. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Randall Freed, Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Harwick, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Karen Sarah,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter,
Yes.
Adam Summer, did he reappear? Don't think so. Alexa Steinberg,
Yes.
Abby is absent. Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, moving on to motion B. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, supports Council File 23-0002-S1 to create an independent member selection process with a new redistricting commission and new redistricting maps for the City of Los Angeles before the April 2023 special election. This would be based on the Los Angeles County model created in 2016's California Senate Bill 958. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS to CF 23-0002-S1. This motion again is one that is exploring. It's not a done deal. So they're thinking about it.
Thanks, Barry. We're going to go to public comment now on the redistricting motion that you just heard. We're going to do 1 minute for this topic. Tess, go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I actually had planned to comment on the other one, but I can comment on both, which is I think that more council members is good, and I support this motion, and particularly the way that Barry has fashioned the language. And I'd like to direct everybody's attention to an article I came across yesterday on citywatchla.com. Article by Greg Nelson, Out of Crisis Comes Opportunity. He's a former general manager of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and he makes a number of what I think are important and useful recommendations about overhauling some of the ways that business is done in city council and the commissions. And one thing in particular struck me. I didn't know that city council member attendance is currently not recorded. There are only really two expectations of a city council member: one, to pass a balanced city budget each year, and two, to show up to work on time. It's not such a big ask, but very often city council members don't even show up. So I direct everybody to that article. I'm happy to send it to anyone who can't find it on City Watch LA. And I do support this motion. Thank you, Barry.
FBI, go ahead.
Yes. So what do we need? We need redistricting commissioners that are licensed, bonded, and insured. We need a background check. And I would recommend a drug test as well. Because after all, when they go in there with their little bags, which by the way, I'm trying to support a motion for recyclable payoff bags. They just fill the cash in there and go home, don't they? Yes, don't they? It's all about payoffs and bribes and prostitutes. Nothing wrong with a good prostitute. We have 15 of them on the city council. Well, Nuri resigned. Well, we have 14 prostitutes on the city council. Cedillo's absent. We have 13. Boy, look at this. When the FBI gets done next year, they won't have enough for a quorum. And that's what it's going to be, isn't it? Yes. So remember, everybody, don't accept bribes when somebody has a camera in the room. Yes. Goat Puppet's uncle told him that. Yes. Anybody there with a camera? What are you doing with that camera? Do you have a payoff? No? Well, then you're okay, asshole.
Thank you, sir.
Not seeing any more hands. We're going to the board. Brandon.
Brandon has his hoof. Brandon has his hoof up.
I have my hoof up. Thank you. What's going on with the special election? I don't know what it's going to be. I know it's about CD6. I know that they're going to be voting on that. I don't know what they're doing with CD10. Heather Hutt's still appointed. She hasn't been elected yet. She was the chief of staff of FBI Snitch's favorite human being, Herb Wesson, but she's still appointed. So maybe that'll be part of this. But it looks like they're trying to fit a lot of stuff into this April 23rd special election. This might just be for like CD9 and CD10, because those are the districts that were in question last time around. Ours was as well, but that was the hot button topic, CD9 and CD10. Yeah, I'm for this. Why not? Maybe it'll open some doors. Maybe it'll shed light on some of the shadows at City Hall and reveal some things. That's always a good thing. So I'm for this. Thank you.
Anybody else from the board want to comment before we go to a vote? Not seeing any hands. Let's go to a vote, please.
All right, we're voting on item 14B to create an independent redistricting commission for the city council. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
Randall Freed, Randy,
You're Randy.
Yes. Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Harwick, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Karen Sarah,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter,
Yes.
Adam is absent. Alexis Steinberg,
Yes.
Abby's absent. Motion passes.
Okay, motion C. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, opposes Council File 22-1154 in its entirety due to the kiosks being unnecessary and obsolete because of today's handheld technology. In addition, we oppose kiosks that contain any advertising, as well as being located near or facing vehicular traffic. Kiosks will be the target of vandalism and destruction, just like our bus shelters, without dedicated money to make repairs. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS to CF 22-1154.
Thanks, Barry. That's pretty self-explanatory. We'll do 1 minute each public comment. If you have a comment on the motion that Barry just read about the bus lanes, raise your hand. FBI, unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
Yes. Well, we'll support it with one modification. Oh, no. Yes. If Goat Puppet can program messages in these kiosks, imagine people sitting there driving across the street and all of a sudden it says, tap here to pay off council members. Imagine the fun we could have. Oh boy. Yes, that's right. They can be hacked, can't they? All the little fun games we can play. And that's why you don't want them. Because when they're not vandalized, they'll be used to put up clues for everybody. For example, you could tap the screen and find out how to move to Nevada and save 37% on your quality of life. No state income tax, no corporate tax. And most of all, what stays in Vegas remains in Vegas. Except if your name is Jose Luis Huizar. Yes, that's right. Now I will turn it over to the new snitch and reformer, Brandon Marino. Yay.
Thank you so much.
All right. He's learning, isn't he? Yes.
Not seeing any more hands from the public. We're back to the board. Brandon?
We talked about this in government affairs, that this really seems like more about the Olympics than anything else. Barry's right. Kiosks is kind of a thing of the past when everyone's got a smartphone that has more power than supercomputers a couple of, maybe even a decade ago. It doesn't make any sense except for tourists coming here for 3 weeks out of whatever. You know, how long does the Olympics last? 3 weeks? Then what's going to happen? Nobody in LA is going to use these kiosks. Not when you've got a phone that can do the same exact thing. So I think it's just a waste of money. Thank you.
And it's 17 days.
Chip?
This looks to me like it's sort of a shallow version of digital billboards, and it looks like it's just going to be some kind of a digital ad platform from which there could be a rev share. But the time has passed for this technology.
Richard?
I agree with everything that Chip said. I'd go further, but there's no time. Go.
Thank you, Richard. Not seeing any more hands. Can we vote on this, please?
All right, we're voting on item 14C, which would oppose the antiquated and technologically unfeasible kiosks. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler.
Yes.
Fiona Duffy.
Yes.
Randall Freed.
Yes.
Ira Gold.
Yes.
Jeff Harwick, yes. Julie Houlihan.
Yes.
Scott Mandel.
Yes.
Chip Meehan.
Yes.
Brandon Marino.
Yes.
Richard Niederberg.
Yes.
Aaron Sarah.
Yes.
Adele Slaughter.
Yes.
Adam Sumner is absent. Alexis Steinberg.
Yes.
Abby's absent. Motion passes.
All right, transportation's motion, and this one, by the way, struck our eye because about a decade or so ago, LADOT approached every neighborhood council for different reasons, but for Studio City, their grand idea at the time was, let's put the bike lane, let's take away one lane of traffic in each direction on Ventura Boulevard for bikes. And we, at the time, said, basically, oh my God, can you imagine Ventura Boulevard with one lane of traffic in each direction? And this was, 10 to 15 years ago. Imagine it now. And we convinced them that the bikes through Studio City would be on the river bikeway, which really runs directly behind most of our business district, and the approach would be going up to the business district from them. In fact, where Bonds is now, there are ramps going up that are like gated off just because they've done that because nobody has used them. But if bikes ever start using that south river lane to any large extent, those could all be open again. Even the Bank of America, the parking structure behind Bank of America has access to that. So anyway, be that as it may, Metro has proposed something that's scaring us, and I'll read the motion. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, opposes Council File 22-1128 unless the 100 new miles of bus-only lanes exclude Ventura Boulevard in Studio City, which cannot afford to lose one lane of traffic in each direction where Ventura Boulevard is already at its narrowest along the entirety of the 17.5 miles of Ventura Boulevard. This motion is also submitted as a community impact statement, CIF to CF 22-1128.
Thanks, Barry. We're going to go to public comment now. Anyone from the public want to talk about dedicated bus lanes in Studio City? Please raise your hand. You'll have 1 minute. FBI, go ahead, please.
Yes. Nothing I hate more. Just hate bus lanes. I hate people who take buses. I like the bus drivers though, but I hate the people on the bus lanes. And I hate it when I have to go with my human and we have to drive in the bus lane and then hop back out, looking for all those police officers with their little ticket books on their little motorcycles. Yes, that's what they really are, is ticket traps. And also, you can steal, obtain matching federal funds by putting these in, which is why our city does it. But we need to stop it and go back to the good old days in the valley. If you don't have a car, then you're walking in LA. And who the hell walks in LA? Walking in LA, nobody walks in LA. And if you can't get a car, get out of here and
Thank you so much.
where you belong. Go to Cuba. Planes are leaving again. They're deporting people.
Not seeing any more hands for public comment on the bus lane issue. Richard, you have something to say?
I did it before, but there's, I enthusiastically endorse this particular motion. Thank you.
Adele?
Just to be on the other side of this, I mean, you know, Melanie likes to tell us that we need to support public transportation, which I think we do need to do. And, listen, I drive my car. I don't want to have bus lanes myself, but I'm just wondering about are we going to be forever a car culture here and not look at, providing for people who ride buses, creating a better public transportation system, allowing, for that? Is that, I guess, just asking the question, what can we do to increase the public transportation here and make it a better system? Because ultimately, at some point, I hope probably not my lifetime, but we're going to have to give up cars. That is, that's going to have to happen if we're going to save the planet. So I don't know. I'm ambivalent about this motion. So.
Dean?
Thank you. Slightly off topic, but Barry, if you know, what is Sherman Oaks, Encino, Tarzana? What are those parts of Ventura Boulevard looking or voting, or what do their impact statements look like?
I don't think they've addressed it yet. And the thing is, for sure, Encino and Tarzana, Ventura is much wider, and it probably could be configured with a bus lane without taking away a lane of traffic. I know it could in certain places. I just don't know if it's consistent between Encino and Woodland Hills, but it's definitely much wider, and you see the 3 lanes many places.
Yeah, it is wider in some spots, but all right, just curious. Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, I think it's just like Studio City has the narrower lanes or something, and maybe does it stipulate Studio City Ventura Boulevard, or does it just say Ventura Boulevard as the limit, not to use it there?
Well, we're saying don't consider us for a bus lane at this time because we can't afford to have one lane in each direction. I mean, we get so many emails now about the whole traffic signalization at Laurel Canyon and Radford, or Laurel Canyon, Ventura, and Radford. And it's like, can you imagine if we had one lane in each direction? It would just be a nightmare right now. So it's just not right for us now. I agree with what Adele says, looking to the future, but we also, when we look to the future, we also have to not screw everybody that lives in the present.
Chip?
Yeah, it's also, they could configure something with losing a lane of parking. I mean, there'd be a way to do it, but the other idea of moving express traffic through that narrow canyon would be counter to making it a pedestrian-friendly area. I mean, it would have to be rerouted, the bus route, probably over to Moore Park. But again, no matter what the committee says, the board says, there's going to be something built between Coldwater and Vineland in the next 3 years. That's going to, next 3 to 5 years. I mean, we can't really afford any more traffic constrictions in the next 3 to 5 years due to the pending construction.
Jeff?
I guess, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, this is completely unnecessary. It's a government attempt to force us out of our cars. There's no need for it on Ventura Boulevard. It's already a major artery that's clogged as it is. Could you imagine a bus lane placed in there with the Harbor Westlake project and Sportsman's Lodge project going on at the same time? I mean, that's disaster right there. We already have a bus lane. It's on Chandler. And whenever I'm driving in that area, I rarely see buses traveling on it. So why don't we just make better use of the bus lanes that we already have instead of forcing these strange ideas on Studio City? Thank you.
Adele, your hand's still up. Is that?
I have a follow-up
Okay.
thought. My follow-up thought is this is not a good idea for now, and that it's ill-conceived. It's sort of like the thing with the voting for more council members. They haven't thought it out. And my fantasy, my dream for Studio City would be that we'd have like a parking lot at one end, and you could have a bus that just took people up and down instead of driving like crazy, and of course that's never going to happen. But this is, I can see where up and down Ventura Boulevard. Plus, Jeff's right. There is a bus lane on Chandler, and they ought to just create buses that go up and down from Chandler to here, so people would actually use it, because it goes from the Orange Line, the subway, all the way down, and it could be a really efficient system if they would use it properly. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Richard, your hand is up for another follow-up?
Yes, yeah. I just don't think that the buses need exclusivity. Share the road like everybody else has to. Every other car, truck, and other vehicle have to use what's there. I don't think there should be any exclusivity for buses. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. I'll make just a couple quick points. As far as not having cars in a few years, we're not going to be building gasoline powered cars. They're just beginning to now push society into accepting electric vehicles. They're going to be driving on the street just like gas cars. They need to park, and people who are buying Teslas and those other electric cars, they're not going to hop on the 240 bus on Ventura Boulevard and go to where they're going. They're going to drive the electric car that they were sort of pushed into buying. Another point, we have a local Studio City bus called the Dash. It takes you all around Studio City. There's never anybody on it. It's free. They're not even charging people right now. people are not riding transportation. There was a survey just published in the news about the decline of women who will no longer ride public transportation because they don't feel it's safe. Sexual assaults, crime and such. So the ride is going down. I ride public transportation more than most of you. That's a tap card. I don't know if any of you have tap cards. I have a tap card. The bus sucks. And if you want to punish people and make driving as difficult as possible, I don't know, maybe somebody will take the bus. We're talking about buses. We're talking about cycling. The project we heard about earlier has 300 and something bicycle parking spots, okay? They have dozens of bicycle parking spots there right now, and usually my bike is the only bike that's ever parked. So I agree with what Barry is writing, and I think they need to reimagine public transportation first before they start taking away the ability to use a car and forcing people into it. If they build it properly, people will use it. And that's my 2 cents. Or 10 cents. I think we're ready to vote on this.
All right, let's vote on item number 15A, which opposes the bus-only lane along Ventura Boulevard. Kim Clements is absent. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy,
Yes.
Randall Freed,
Yes.
Ira Gold,
Yes.
Jeff Harwick, yes. Julie Houlihan,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Karen Sarah,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter,
Yes.
Adam Summers absent. Alexis Steinberg,
Yep.
Abby's absent, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Barry, for handling all those motions. You were very busy tonight, and we appreciate the hard work you did.
And Scott, can I do a thank you to both you and Jeff, who are going to get the timely motion out tomorrow to More Song? I appreciate you doing that. So he will have it tomorrow and can read it later tomorrow and Friday before the hearing on Monday. Thanks.
Good point, Barry, and I will have it signed in 20 minutes or less upon receipt. So it's up to you, Jeff. And now, as always a tradition, we have item finally 16, good of the order, brief comments from board members on items not on the agenda. For those of you who still want the meeting to go on, board members, raise your hand and tell us something briefly about an item that's not on the agenda that's on your mind, because we don't want to end the meeting before 11 o'clock. Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is just really quickly. It's not necessarily something that would be agenda item, but I would just like to speak to the board in general. It wasn't that bad today, but when someone's speaking, I'm just going Robert's rules. The only way you can actually interrupt a speaker is point of order, point of information, or point of privilege. I would like to see board members do more of that instead of cutting in and just talking. And obviously the rule of thumb is if you go point of information, then you wait for the chair, who's Scott, to call upon you, and then you can say what you have to say. But I think it would be more orderly if we just went ahead and started doing that instead of just unmuting yourself and just talking like that, because then it opens up everyone else to cut in and say things. And I'd appreciate it if we follow a more orderly manner of conducting the business. No knock on Scott. It was a hell of a meeting today, almost 4 hours, but I would appreciate more of a point of order, point of information, point of privilege way of interrupting speakers. Thank you very much.
Point of information.
Scott?
Yeah. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that is good to know, because I didn't know there was a term, point of information, and I would have been happy to say that tonight because he was saying something that simply wasn't true, and he was trying to use it to his advantage. I wanted to get the violin out.
Richard,
Well, it is true that we need help setting up Luminaria on December 3rd and helping being there on December 4th to talk to constituents, particularly if you want to get reelected. But primarily, we need to work on December 3rd to get everything over there and set up for the Luminaria. Thank you.
thank you, Richard. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, there is a task list. And Richard, Barry, and I are going to be the taskmasters, and you are all going to report for hard labor and pitch in and deal with Luminaria and help us make that event a success. Oh, Chip, you had a good of the order?
No, I'd quit, point of question. Brandon, do you need help with the farmer's market? Is there a list for requested help for that?
No, generally show up around, I think Terry's showing up around 7:30 or something like that. She wants the good spot. The last one we were at, two ago, we weren't in the right spot. The last time we were there, we're near right at the very beginning of the farmer's market area, right near the coffee shop, I believe. So that's, I think, where we're supposed to be. But yeah, show up around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I don't know if I'm going to be there early. I'm going to be there until we close, until about 1:30. So yeah, I'm going to reach out to both cultural affairs and outreach and see who's doing what, when, and should be an interesting time.
Out of an abundance of caution, as they like to say, we are going to go to 1 minute of public comment. After this, the board is all done. FBI?
Yes, we have horrible seasonal news. United States of America versus Mark Ridley Thomas has been delayed. Yes, it's been delayed till next year in March 2023. So take out your snitch calendars. Okay. United States versus Jose Luis Huizar, February 2023. Check. United States of America versus the Honorable Mark Ridley Thomas the next month on March 2023. Yes, so you see, Mark Ridley Thomas and Jose Huizar have something in common. It's going to be the last Thanksgiving and the last Christmas they're going to spend with their families for a long, long time. Unless they get another delay. And of course, I just wish I had more time. I would show you a letter from a lawyer regarding our city attorney. But I must go. Yes, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting from the floor using my illegal
Thank
pen.
you.
So on that note, not seeing any objections, I'm going to move to adjourn this meeting at 10. Thank you. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you for the few attendees who are still here. For those of you watching on YouTube as well, this will be posted sometime tomorrow before noon. And good night, everybody. Thanks for all your effort.
Good night.
Night.